3 are 12 for no wickets.
So a couple of tweets. Arthurshire, innings break is giving me the chance to mow the lawn. Back with you in time for the inevitable England collapse.
Hey!
Adam Kite, delicious irony in the never trust a man with two first names jingle as Matt Henry balls to Jason Roy.
Yeah, indeed.
Leah, people should stop abusing the umpires this World Cup. Not one bucknail hair among them, or Random Rudy for that matter.
Random Rudy, yes.
David Evans, how can that possibly be not out? Because the umpire gave it not out, would be my play on that one.
And it was only hitting half a stump.
Derek Willis, look, I was in church, okay? Had to be to the liturgist, which I don't know what that means. So not much chance to check the cricket, but here now. I hope that liturgist went well. Liturgist, what's that?
Welcome, my son.
Henry bowls ball that comes back into Roy, but Roy has lifted his bat way above his head, got it out of the way, and through the keeper it goes. It's a form of liturgy, isn't it?
The liturgy, yes.
The liturgy, yes. It started to go away and then hit the wicket and decided to go the other way. Well, that's great bowling. But Jason Roy is taking a step down the wicket to do all he can to negate that. Henry turns, he's in again, bowls, and it's a beauty which goes off the pitch as well as moving away in the air. He has a little bit of a fiddle for it outside off stump and is beaten by that. He nods his acknowledgement of what a good delivery that was. So we're seeing some great artistry from New Zealand here from these fast bowlers.
Some great artistry from Dr. Dan Diper as well. Some beautiful images that you see of some wickets we've seen in the New Zealand innings.
Absolutely.
Get to our Twitter page for more.
Indeed. Here's Henry again into Roy, and it's on his legs, and he flicks that away down to long leg. It'll only be a single because it hurried down to the backfielder there, who is Lockie Ferguson.
So he's got the tash now, hasn't he?
He's got the 70s porn tash.
He's
right. He really has. He could have just stepped out of the pages of, I don't know, whatever.
Is he just? It's been passed on from Jimmy Neesham to him.
I think it's reached its fruition in Lockie.
He's playing with bats and balls.
Yeah,
looks a bit peach fuzzy to me. Remember that line from Beverly Hills Cop?
I don't know.
That is his tash. Peach fuzz.
Peach fuzz
about his top lip.
Big dark dirty cloud over Lords at the moment, but no rain as far as we can tell. As Henry comes in from the nursery end, bowls to Bairstow, finds an outside edge as he probes forward, feeling for the ball a little bit. It runs down to third man, and they take the 1. He goes to 2. Roy has 11. It's 14 for no wicket.
Anna Forsyth. I've lost the tweet. I really can't cope with this. Fuck me, drink and bowl.
Think about pizza, Anna. Again, thank you very much for that generous donation.
I enjoyed the pizza.
Me too.
Most of it was cold by the time I got to the second helping, sadly. But there you go. Henry in again to Roy. Roy jabs this away from his waist towards Guptill at mid-wicket. There is no run.
What you want to do there is eat faster.
Yeah, that's true. I had one really big juicy piece to start with just before my those last 10 overs. But yeah, by the time I got out there for the second helping,
all of us all of you have spoilt us enormously. With donuts and pizzas and beer and everything. Thank you.
We can't eat it all. Down the wicket comes Roy, smashes that over the top of mid-on. It's going to plug. It's not gone very far. It's going to plug sort of about 20 yards inside the boundary at Cow. But they've got back for 2. It wasn't much fun to watch, but it was effective. England have now reached 16 for no wicket after 4.
Nice work there. It's just went along with it and tried to hit it out of the ground, but that is the way he plays. Muttley, surprisingly, we're only 0.89 runs below the run rate. That shot, I would say, maybe slightly ahead. Jay Grover, hello, my name is Jay. I've just made my bed. Nothing else happened in my flat during lunch. What's all the shouting about?
Jay, I don't even want to imagine what else has been going on in the lunch break in your flat or anywhere near you.
Yeah, we've got a couple of score updates from Otis Sayman, just for those who are interested in other sports apart from cricket. Djokovic took the first set, 7-6. Federer up a break in the second. Vettel drove into the back of Verstappen. Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc with 6 laps to go. Bottas has to pit again.
Bowls, and Bairstow hits this with the swing quite nicely, crisply really, but straight to mid-wicket, and there is no run. It's a very interesting start this has been. as it was really to the New Zealand innings. I think there's been helpful conditions to the bowlers all day, really. When it stopped swinging and moving off the pitch has just died a little bit, so it's been difficult to play fluent strokes, I would say.
You can't trust it 100%.
No. Bolt in again to Bairstow, and Bairstow, oh wow, I thought he'd been bowled by that, but actually it just hit him high on the thigh. Again, it came right back into him, defeated his shot. The ball rebounded away to first slip, and there is no run.
Rich Clark has got some perfect tactical advice. On holiday, tactically told my wife that I would look after my son so she could have a nap in the innings break. Now sitting on a sun lounger with a glass of wine while she's running ragged by him, cashing in for the next hour.
Oh, that's crafty.
Did you make sure that was during your son's sleep time?
Very
Hope she's not listening.
Very good. Bolt in again to Bairstow. Bairstow drives. He's going to get runs here. He's pierced the field on the offside, and that is going to run away towards the grandstand for 4 runs. Trent Bolt stands there and wonders where the justice has gone.
It's a bit like Fido Dido, doesn't he? Trent Bolt with his hair.
Is.
You know the little character for 7-Up? The little cartoon character with his hair sticking upwards. Like his face has been caught in a lift or something.
You've been working in advertising too long.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Bolt, short one. Bairstow ducks underneath it. Through the keeper it goes. There is a man at a short backward square leg, I would say. Or perhaps you could argue it's a leg gully, but quite square. And that's for the one that he just clips with the swing off his legs.
Johnny with his bluely branded...
Bluely branded?
Yeah,
Bluely branded
Grey Nicholls.
Yeah.
It's nice. And his nickname is Blue, isn't it?
Bluey. Well, his dad was known as Bluey.
Yeah.
Bolt in. Oh, big full toss driven, and that will also run away for 4. Didn't get the length right there at all. Did get some swing, but it wasn't enough, and that is another boundary. We'll move to 24 for no wicket. Roy has 13. Bairstow with that shot goes into double figures. He has 10 from 13 deliveries. 1 ball remaining in Bolt's 3rd over.
That's how you play a full toss. The Kiwis should be watching this from the left quarter.
Yeah, it can take you by surprise, the low full toss, can't it? But
it can.
That one was right in the zone for him just to guide effortlessly through the covers.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it disrupts your rhythm a little bit, doesn't it? And you can be late or a bit early on it. Bairstow now 506 runs in this tournament. Defends the next ball from Bolt, which is the final one of the over. He's now bowled 3 overs and has none for 16.
Parks. My innings breaks gave me some time to whiz the motor down to the car wash and pop some more washing on the line. Rock and roll Sunday.
Yeah, more of your Sunday stories here, please.
Later. Jeff Perkins is apparently thinking about creating a jingle, which no one will know what to look for or find, but there's a bit of commentary going. We should try to find it and demand and play it. But if you know which jingle it is,
what?
Let us know. If there's some random jingle in there, which would be pretty funny, we'd be happy to play it.
Or have you just sent it? Are you just saying you've sent it to our jingles inbox?
Is it something about like nothing's happening or there's no jingle for this or something? Is that the one?
It could be one of those like
I saw that recently.
Lost Levels in Mario where you can't really find out which one it is.
Henry continues 2 slips. He bowls to Roy, who thumps this off the front foot up to mid-off. There is no run.
Leah just with I wouldn't let Lockie play with my balls. Porn stashes are a no-go.
Fair point. We're looking at the fan zone at Trafalgar Square, London. It looks like there's a good crowd turned out there, which is great to see. The deck chairs are on display. There are a lot of people standing at the back in front of the National Gallery, isn't it? National Gallery?
It is National Gallery.
And Portrait Gallery, isn't it?
Portrait Gallery, that's the one. Driven slightly airily, but finding the gap again. Lovely shot by Roy, and that runs away in front of the mound stand for 4 more. Over a 4. 28 for no wicket. England's batsman beginning to play a few shots. That wasn't that far away from Mitchell Santner at extra cover.
Spidery, isn't he, Santner?
He is very spidery, yes, the way he moves, yes. Indeed, you could imagine that he had 8 limbs rather than the 4 that he does have.
That would be cheating, wouldn't it?
That would be a web. Just flick a web from his hand.
It would just be left arm around the wicket. It would be...
And that's why spiders don't play
cricket.
They're not allowed.
No, that's right, exactly. Here is Henry again into Roy, who drives down the line of the ball, but the ball actually deviates away from him, and he is beaten by that one. He acknowledges that was a decent delivery, and it's very sporting from him. Went quite late as well. Lovely delivery, really, from Henry. I want to keep calling him Henry for some reason. But,
Mathieu Henry.
Indeed. The French New Zealander is coming in again from the nursery end to Roy, and Roy's got an edge for that one. I think it's just been taken by Latham diving forward, and finally Matt Henry and New Zealand themselves have something to cheer about, because that was an absolute beauty. Roy is on his way. He's made 17. England are 28 for 1, and they're doomed. These really are good bowling conditions, aren't they? That's found quite a significant edge, and it's just reached Latham as he gets his gloves underneath that one.
But that previous ball that he played out, and you're playing hard out in front of your pads. That's not the way to play on this pitch either. You've got to play it under your nose. You've got to play it Kane Williamson style. And I know that's not Jason Roy's natural game, but he went hard at another one there, and he's paid the price this time.
Yeah, again, I think it's something to do with the pace off the pitch. He's reaching for it, thinking it's going to be there a little bit earlier than it is. Anyway, he bumps gloves with Joe Root as he comes into the long room. Joe Root disappears from the long room, and that'll be a big disappointment from Jason Roy. But of course, he could have been out first ball. He got away with one a little bit.
Yeah,
and Root is on his way.
His voice is high-pitched and ginger hair like a picked, but massive runs he has hit, so there's that. Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root, actually.
It is Joe Root, and he was being interviewed before the start of the play today, and I'm not sure what's gone on with his hair, but it honestly looked like someone had taken the thatched roof off a cottage, dyed it bright yellow, and stuck it on his head. Very strange.
It's adding a bit of colour to the miserable day in weather outside.
Well, I suppose so. Colour, yeah, but it was the texture of the hair that was so disturbing.
It's the one ones that you want to stand out in a World Cup picture. If you're holding a trophy, you want to be the one that stands out.
Oh, I see. Yeah, possibly.
That could be part of it.
Yeah, could be it. Or it could just be a lot of product.
Could be. TV umpire. So Roy isn't the smartest in the lineup. Who is? I'd go for Root or Morgan. Let's see how they bat here today. And I like this one from Ravi Nair. I wonder if Bolt's dressing room nickname is a saying. That deserved a laugh.
Don't get it. Henry into Root. This one moves away from him down the hill. He gets enough bat on it to jab it into the offside square, and there is no run.
Usain Bolt. So you got Bolt.
Oh.
And his dressing room name is Usain, which would make it Usain Bolt.
Oh, I see. Yes. Okay. All right. I'm with you now.
Excellent.
Just about. Good catch by Latham, picking that up off his toes, really. It's, again,
it was. I mean, it's sort of a bit of cross-seam delivery that just seamed off the pitch slightly, and the footwork wasn't as strong as it needed to be.
Bowls to Root again. Root is forward to this one, and pushes it back to the bowler. Henry then striking first, as he did against India. Is that another of the many omens that we keep seeing in this game? 28 for 1 after 6. New Zealand made 241 for 8.
Well, New Zealand have definitely deserved that wicket.
Yeah.
Been a bit unlucky that first ball, really, not to get Jason Roy off with W. It was a very marginal call. Got away with it that time, but he didn't get away with one that he pushed very hard at in that over.
Now, I was curious, as Jason Roy's gone off, Aleem Dar, who presumably is the third or fourth official, I imagine, standing just the other side of the boundary and is saying something to him.
Something like, don't be a prick.
Exactly, yeah, check your attitude.
I didn't see anything wrong with his attitude there. Did anyone see anything wrong with that? Bolt bowls to Bairstow. Bairstow drives, lovely fluent shot, but well fielded by Williamson up there at mid-off. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was all about. Seems unnecessary.
I imagine it's more he's probably due to come out to talk to the umpires and he happened to be in the boundary.
Is he just saying bad luck? I wouldn't say that to Jason Roy.
He's saying, I should have suspended you if you scored more than 17 runs.
It looked rather schoolmasterly the way that Aleem Dar addressed Jason Roy there.
Yeah.
So you look, check your behaviour, rein yourself in.
Bolt bowls, comes off the thigh pad of Bairstow as he's looking to turn it into the onside, but there is no run. Bolt none for 16. He's into his fourth over now, racing in. He's got a quick run up. Everything he does is quite quick. Isn't it?
Quick arm.
The arm is quick. It's and he gets that lovely swing. He's a
Late
great
swing.
bowler to watch. Really is. Here he is now, scampering in once more. Bowls to Bairstow. Bairstow lets the one pass. It swings down the leg side. That will be a wide. Good work by Latham diving away to his left.
Wide.
So that there's nothing more than one wide. I'm going to move to 29 for one.
A couple of his deliveries have done more than he was expecting as well. The one that sort of nutmegged Jason Roy earlier on, and almost bowled him, but it did way too much. It was actually quite a way down the leg side by the time it passed.
He'd like that one to have started around about just outside off stump, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but it never works that way, does it?
Not often. He's in again. Balls to Bairstow. That's a lovely ball, but it's also well hit by Bairstow, who then just strolls down the pitch after dismissing that through mid-on, all the way along the ground for 4. That's a lovely on drive, which Lockie Ferguson couldn't reach. And as soon as he hit that Bairstow, he thought, that's 4. I'll just stroll on down, just have a little chat.
Terrific cricket all round. It was a really good ball, that, and Johnny's just sort of leant on it and timed the ears off it through mid-on for 4.
Tremendous stuff. England 33 for 1. They need 241, 242 to win. Bolt in again to Bairstow. This one goes the other way, but he rides with it and jabs it into the offside, and there is no run.
Yeah, the one from Muttley, that 4 took us above the required run rate. It's coming home. Woof.
Well, I suppose we have to think about Duckworth Lewis. I mean, there is cloud around, but we're told there's not going to be any rain.
I think it'll be fine. It's just a case of scoring the runs.
I just hope that Muttley is not whimpering later.
Again, the ball is angled across Bairstow. A couple of decent deliveries there from Bolt, just changing the angle slightly, and 2 dot balls result.
Yeah, just one from Robbie and I about Butler. He is everything. The beautifulest, the smartest, the talentedest.
You to me are everything. I might write those lyrics for Josh.
Rewrite them.
Yeah.
I was on the train, the tube the other day. This is outside the off stump and allowed to pass through by Johnny Bairstow. Ended the over 33 for 1 from 7. I was on the tube the other day, coming home quite late at night, and a bunch of ladies got on, women got on, and they started, I don't know where they'd been, but they started singing en masse, and The Real Thing was one of their favourites. You to me or everything. It wasn't a bad rendition, I have to say, from sort of 6
very good
sloshed girls. Anyway, the latest news on...
Were they singing it to you?
No, not directly, although I was getting worried that they might. Novak has double faulted to hand. Federer the second set 6-1.
Oh my goodness!
Set a piece.
Wow.
Thanks, Evil Scooters gave us that info as well. Matt CL watching Wimbledon on a laptop, World Cup final on TV, listening to commentary and guerrilla cricket. Not a bad way to spend Sunday.
Henry into Root, who lets this one move away down the hill without recourse to playing a shot, and it's through to keeper, no run. 33 for 1 from 7.1. Matt Henry is the leading wicket taker in overs 1 to 10 in this World Cup. That's pretty good, isn't it? 8 he has now, so he's a real new ball bowler.
That is a great question.
It is a good question.
The next oval quiz that we do.
Henry in again, bowls to Root. Root gets in behind this, defends back to the bowler. He's yet to score. Bairstow has 14, England are 33 for 1.
We've seen a fair bit in this game where what I would call proper cricket or test match cricket is the way to go. So Wokes, when he was bowling, was bowling good lines and lengths just outside the off stump. That was the right thing to do at that particular time of the game.
Well, welcome back. If you're a New Zealander who's joined us for the first time today, you probably tuned out because we were playing that, not easily forgotten World Cup final, second innings. And we all know what happened there, but it's been a great morning for New Zealand in the first test at Lord's. I'm Gorilla Hendo, Nigel Henderson. Alongside me, in a virtual sense, are the Bear.
Hello there, Hendo.
Oh, you're very loud, Bear. Can you turn yourself down a bit?
I'm not that loud.
Okay. Well, you are in my ear. And Nestle Boy, how's Epping today?
Hello.
Hello.
It's sunny.
A
little breeze.
little bit of a breeze.
Sunny.
And of course it is actually, well, certainly where I am in my part of London, it's clouding over a little bit here. There is talk of later drizzle. What's it like in Sydenham, Bear?
In Sydenham it's quite hazy. It's quite easy. There's a few white feathery clouds up in the sky. The sun isn't beating down. It's warm. It's nice. I like the weather. Apparently, it's possible thunderstorm later.
Yeah.
So they say.
Well, they say thunderstorm, but they're also saying drizzle, and I don't think you can get much more to diametrically opposed forms of rain from thunderstorm and drizzle, really. So they've got to make their minds up what we're going to get.
Well, there's a disturbing tweet from Farong.
Yep.
He's talking about the lack of swing aiding the Black Caps, not implying that they didn't bat well, but he's going to tell us later he's got an interesting tale of woe relating to beer stocks here in Bangladesh.
Ooh. Well, that is quite frightening and alarming. Although I must say I've not had a beer for 15 months now, and so.
Yeah, I might have. I'm going into Soho tomorrow night.
Be careful. Be careful.
It'll be my first beer since March the 14th, 2020.
Oof. Written on the calendar.
Yeah, March 14th. That was the day before my 50th birthday.
Well, there you go. Well, it might be a more profitable afternoon for England if this cloud cover does begin to build up. And as he enters the arena, Kane Williamson is looking up at the sky as if to suggest that he's a little bit worried that this haziness, this cloud, and that England might get a little bit more from the conditions this afternoon. That said, New Zealand batted very well this morning. Conway has taken like a duck to water to Test cricket. Just occasionally you think perhaps he's going to leave a gap between bat and pad as he tries to drive, but he's timed the ball really nicely this morning. They're back out there. Let's jingle up the protagonists pair.
The Kiwi told me long ago, there's no one better than Marty Crow. I know he's really great, but tell me, I wanna know, have you ever seen Kane laying strokes every which way?
It's Anderson around the wicket. First ball after lunch. He's coming in from the pavilion end. Conway props forward. The ball gets caught a little bit between bat and pad and then just drops down in front of him. And there is no run. 85 for one. Devon Conway on Test debut has gone to 43 not out with 5 fours. Shall we jingle up the bowler?
Yeah, let's do that.
Jimmy was a local boy, but he see much more than the change in the weather. Sitting in a uniform of a three-piece suit and a ribbons from his past.
He's into Conway again. Conway defends on the front foot. He's got a man now in what we call the off-Hayden position, which is a position fairly straight and not too far away from the bowler or where the bowler's delivering the ball from. Sometimes if he's on the onside, he gets in the way of the non-striker trying to run. But that is the position that he's got, maybe just in the eye line of the batsman, just hoping to put him off a little bit. We've also got, I think, 3 slips in a gully for Jimmy Anderson, who was operating in a third spell, I think it was, just before lunch. He's in again, and once more there's that little gap between bat and pad. Conway gets a thick inside edge. If the ball was doing a little bit more, he might be in more danger. He's going to get his first run after lunch as that runs behind square leg. And New Zealand are off and running again.
It's almost like he's hedging his bets about which way the ball's going. A little bit.
You'd have to against Jimmy, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose. He played with soft hands. It's right under his eyes when he drops his bat on it. We should give him a jingle, but I'll give him at the beginning of the next over, the next bowler 2.
Okay. Williamson then will face up 13 not out from 32 deliveries. I was just thinking that talking about inexperienced sides, certainly from England's point of view, but in terms of batsmen, we've got 4 winter double centuries out there today. 2 for Root, of course, and 2 for Williamson. And Jimmy Anderson is going to bowl to the New Zealand captain now. He's back over the wicket. He's into him, and he's dropped down onto the stumps. First ball after lunch. We've given him a big build-up, but I'm afraid he has gone.
Oh dear, oh dear. As Hendo chokes to death.
I did manage to mute myself, but it's the second New Zealand to play on. We talk about how well he plays that glide down to third man. In fact, there was a great dissection of it in the Times this week by Steve James. The way that he plays with the the bat at 45 degrees to the ground and lets it glide off the underside of the bat. Well, it's glided off the underside of the bat and back down onto his off stump on this occasion, and he has gone. New Zealand are 86 for 2.
That is. It's almost like he played with two soft hands and it just run off, as you say, just run off the bat onto his stumps.
Well, I think that is the danger, Bear. I mean, you can play with two soft hands. Obviously, you can. And, you know, if the ball's got a certain amount of a momentum, and it, you know, I suppose it's down to physics and the way the ball hits the bat, and the rotations on it, and the way the spin is, the way that the spin is developing on the ball, and it can roll back onto the stumps, and it's done that there. And that is a massive blow, a good one for England, an awful one for New Zealand. Any tweets, Nestlers?
Yeah, Jay Grover says, the advert before you came on said, can you spot the lie? I've got my eye on all of you. And he follows up with, the lie is that ridiculous piece of shit derivative rip-off song, Anderson deserves better. I'm with you on that, Jay. I've never heard such a poor impersonation of the Jam in my life.
Well, it is, but it quite amuses me. Well, this man's come to the crease.
Wouldn't it be good to be Ross Taylor, even with his old and aching boat? Wouldn't it be good to be Ross Taylor to anyone?
Well, I've always loved Ross Taylor. I mean, he's in the twilight of his career now, but still going well. What, 35, 36 years old now? And a very solid batsman, more than a solid batsman. He's almost up there with the greats, you'd have to say. Man who's got a massive double century in Australia, hasn't he? 293, I think it was at Perth back in the day. He's a fabulous cricketer, a little bit leg side dominant, but a lot of players are.
In the modern era, certainly so, eh?
Well, I've liked him. I first saw him in an ODI in Hobart against England in 2007, I think it was, and he got 60 odd in that game. And looked very impressive, and has built a tremendous career. Here comes Jimmy Anderson in from the pavilion end to Taylor. Taylor onto the front foot firmly and solidly. Bat and pad close together, back down the wicket to Jimmy Anderson, and there is no run. Have any of our friends from New Zealand been in touch? Are they?
Well, LA has been in touch. Neymar Butlins, hot and hazy in LA. Morning, lads, he says. Oxymoronica says there's a Middlesex bowler called Anderson with 2 S's who's done well for them this season. Otherwise, their batting's been a joke, and no wonder they are bottom of the table. Yeah,
their batting's been terrible. I mean, you look at that lineup and you think, what's happened to one or two of the guys there? Eskenazi, and of course, as Anderson bowls a full one, dug out by Taylor. He wants a single. There's some hesitation. Broad coming in from mid-off, firing back towards Bairstow, who's raced up to the stumps, takes it nicely, but Conway is safely home.
Went to the wrong end there, didn't he?
I think he did go to the wrong end. Yeah, I think you're right there, Bear. Maybe he just needed to turn a little bit more to fire at the non-striker's end, but certainly it was Taylor who'd hesitated with regards to the run.
It's Broad. He doesn't turn very quickly.
No, I mean, Conway was obviously backing up really well. He was comfortably home. That is the end of the first dramatic over after lunch. 87 for 2. The cloud doesn't look quite as heavy over Lords as it does around SW19, but England will be hoping that it'll come in a little bit and give their quicker bowlers, because that is what they have really. They don't have a spinner apart from Joe Root and perhaps of course Dan Lawrence, I suppose. Anyway, it's going to be Devon Conway. We're going to jingle up in a moment, but probably not until we've heard from Stuart Broad.
Oh, indeed. He hasn't got one of these, but I still like it.
Sweep the leg, Broady. Got the best headband around. Something has got to keep her down. Got the best headband around. Your ego ain't gonna be kept down. Got the best headband around. Even though your hair is thin now.
And although he's not facing, he hasn't noticed jingle yet, so he's going to get it.
That is the Devon Conway jingle. First ball delivered by Broad is full, and Taylor pushes up to mid-on. Early couple of balls to Taylor have been very full. Is that the way they want to bowl at him. Just thinking with Anderson and Broad, two very experienced players, will have developed a plan perhaps for Taylor. They'll have seen a lot of him.
Well, they bowled a lot to him as well, and he does try and clip round his front pad. I mean, it's one way of trying to get him out, trying to just beat his inside edge, because he does play, across his off stump.
Quite an open stance. It's full again. Digs it back to Broad, who grabs it with his left hand and then stares at Taylor down the pitch. Taylor responds by just coming to have a little bit of a prod of the middle of the wicket. 87 for 2. If you're just joining us on Guerrilla Cricket, welcome, especially welcome if you're listening to us for the first time from New Zealand, or you are a Kiwi who is in some other part of the world, has just discovered us. 3 slopes of gully, backward point, mid-off fairly wide, mid-on, mid-wicket fairly square, and a long leg for Broad. And he's coming in to bowl to Ross Taylor from the nursery end. He's past the umpire now. It's all back of a length this time, and a little bit of movement down the hill, but Taylor snatches the bat inside the line of the ball and then goes for a little wander. He already seems to be unhappy with his gloves. He's signalling to the dressing room.
That's it. What? He's only been out there 4 balls. Fuck off. That's basically stick with the damn gloves, you arsehole. I was just thinking that. I mean,
that's the message from the dressing room. Fuck off.
If Gary was here, can you imagine the fit he'd be having about the over rate? They only bowled 25 overs this morning.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely asking for something. He wants something for his eyes. I think he needs something in his eye. He needs some eye drops. Broad in, good ball outside the line of off stump. He defends, coming across a little bit and pushing with any semblance of an angle up to mid on. And again, no run. Taylor has 1. Conway 44.
Finding a way not to play cricket.
Yes.
Shooting itself in the foot again, isn't it, Nestlers?
Absolutely.
Well, if he's got something in his eye, I mean, you can't,
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to bat without eyes. It's quite tricky.
I don't know. I used to shut my eyes quite a lot.
Yeah, probably. Or certainly if you're getting ones up the throat, you possibly want to shut your eyes as you aim a hook at the ball. Here is Broad again in, bowls outside the off stump. Good carry through to Bracey. Bracey's done pretty well behind the stumps. Hasn't had a lot to do, but he's done it with the minimum of fuss. And the score remains 87 for 2.
O'Neill Harris has joined us. He says he misses us and glad to have us back. And he also says commentator's curse for Hendo there for Williamson's wicket.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure I don't do that when Ruti's batting. I won't even mention the fact that he got a couple of really big scores in the winter. Certainly looking from the stump cam towards the nursery end, there's still plenty of blue sky and sunshine at Lord's. I wonder what people think about the new design of the Compton and Edridge. Broad in. Oh, now he does play right in front of his pad, his front pad that time. He's going to get a single, maybe a second. No, yes, they do come back for the second to long leg, but he's played that right in front of his pad. He's picked up the 2. He's gone on to 3 at the end of Broad's over. New Zealand are 89 for 2.
Ravanelli bought a speculative 5th day ticket for 20 quid. Looking good at the moment, fingers crossed. Mayank's with us, says good morning everyone. You're back. Glorious Test cricket is back live. I can't wait for this long and intense summer of cricket. Leia asks, what black magic was that by Anderson? Burn him at the stake, I say. Mark Zips joined us, joining you as we clean up from the yard sale. Happy to say it was absolute carnage, and he sent me a before and after pic, which has got me drooling at vinyl. Please explain the Devon Conway jingle, because I like the song, says Jay Grover. I can't remember which one it was.
I need to listen to these about 3 times before I can pick up the words quite often.
The light roller says, good to hear Sweep the Leg Broadie again, which of course is the new old Broad jingle.
Yep, we've got quite a lot of Broadie, and there's even one, I forgot we've got one, Wagner one.
Oh yeah. Oh, Jay Grover says, oh God, fucking damn it, Bear, now I can hear Gary in my head.
Don't worry, he'll be back at some point.
You'll find the very young Kiwi fans up the nursery end, says Neymar Butlins.
Onto the front comes Conway as Anderson starts his second over of the afternoon from round the wicket from the pavilion end. There's a bit of pad involved. Ball drops out into the offside, and there is no run. We were just seeing sort of the worst hits of Ross Taylor just then, where we saw about 8 examples of him being dismissed by England. And in fact, Stuart Broad got a magnificent record against him, got him out 10 times in Test cricket. So Broady will be feeling confident about getting him again. Here's Anderson once more, bowls to Conway. Conway jabs this into the onside. Something about Conway reminds me a little of Mark Stoneman, the Surrey and former, I suppose, England batsman, we'd have to say. Unless he starts getting a lot of runs and puts his name back in the frame. There's something about him. He's very fluent on the drive, times the ball beautifully, doesn't try to overhit.
That kid looks like he's got Canastella.
Has he?
He looks a bit underage.
He's got an Aussie hat on.
Well, that's fair enough. You've got to start them young. In comes Anderson again, bowls bullish outside the off stump, played neatly into the offside by Conway, who then scratches his guard again, and there is no run. Anderson 1 for 21, his 615th Test wicket that was, and what a one to get in the form of the New Zealand captain Kane Williamson. Now the Aussie child has decided to hide his can of Stella from the cameraman. He's obviously been caught in the act. He's feeling a bit sheepish about it. So he's holding that low now. Anderson wide on the crease outside the off stump again. Left alone through to Bracey. No run. 1999, of course, when the New Zealanders won at Lord's. And that was a kind of season that was a nadir for England, wasn't it? 99. I was out of the country, and so I didn't really feel the full force of it. But everyone felt that England had hit a new low by being defeated at home by New Zealand, which is harsh on New Zealand. Always had good players. Anderson bowls, drivable length, and only half stops it. I think he was trying to drag the ball back with his hand onto the stumps, and all he did was deflect it past them. Broad retrieves, and they get through for an easy single, 90 for 2.
Yeah, late 90s England cricket was not pleasant to watch, man.
That was under Hussain at that point, wasn't it? Nasser?
Yeah, it was kind of before he sort of swept the broom and brought everyone in and just ditched all those old fuckers. Wasn't that when Lloyd, the famous "we should have beaten Zimbabwe" thing? Wasn't that around then? That was
a little earlier. I think that was about 95, 96, something like that. But yes, when he was talking about. Well, that was when Zimbabwe stopped England winning, wasn't it? By bowling way outside the leg stump. I remember Heath Streak, I think, bowling quite wide, and David Lloyd was getting absolutely apoplectic about it. Anderson is back over the wicket to the right-handed Ross Taylor. We've got on Hayden. Again, he plays a moving ball away from in front of his pad and works it to square leg. He'll take single as the man runs around from mid-wicket.
You got to think a bit like KP. He's the kind of man who later in his career, when his eyes start to go, he'll just, end up like Shane Watson, getting pinned in front of the middle stump all the time. But that's how he plays.
Well, I don't know. I mean, people talk about the eye, but if you look at scientific studies of batting, the eye picks the ball up really early if you're a really good player, and then you almost play by instinct. And as long as your timing is good, you're probably going to be okay. Although that obviously, once your eyes completely go.
Maybe it's reaction times then instead.
Reaction times, maybe. Yeah, I suppose that's more likely, I would say. Anyway, Broad will start a new over, his 9th. He's got figures of none for 24. He's bowling to his bunny. Ross Taylor, he's in, and it's full on leg stump, hits him on the pad. Broad thinks it's out. Nobody else does, least of all Richard Kettleborough, who suspects that that's going down the leg side. But of course, Broadie's going to have words with Root and with Bracey. I think it was missing.
I think it's probably. I think it might be clipping leg stump, but having not been given out, they're not going to overturn it. But it was very full. He was behind the line of the crease, I think.
I suppose he's got a little bit of use of the slope, but I still don't think that would have come back down it far enough. I think that was missing leg stump.
Yeah, look at the replay. I think you're right there.
But of course, in Broad's mind, it was plumb. And we're going to see it again.
Yeah, it's
hitting outside leg stump. How much wider do you want it to be? It's missing the leg stump by about 5 inches. Only impact was umpire's call. Here is Broad again. Getting this one to swing away. Started perhaps a little bit early, so Taylor had plenty of time to just watch that arc past him. And Now he goes down the pitch to have a little bit of a prod. Any more tweets, Nestlers?
Well, Farong's given me the beer update. He went to his local and the staff gave him Heineken. He asked where the Hunter beer was and they didn't have any. The government is the sole manufacturer of beer in Bangladesh. The factory has no beer. It ran out.
What?
They should have it back on the 15th of June. And he said, sack the production manager.
That's a
You've got to
fucking
wait for 2
disaster.
weeks for beer.
Well, they've got imports.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, beautiful ball from Brawley. This time he does swing it away from much closer to the off stump, and Taylor was committed to the shot, and he rather shoveled at that and was beaten on the outside edge. He has a little bit of a grin about it, but that was a lovely seam position. Beautiful delivery from Broad. That really is Broady at his best. Gorgeous.
I can't believe how many people in our teams for the first match didn't have Anderson and Broad as stuck on.
Well, I understand why you would, and okay, I'm trying to play down this notion of looking forward or looking ahead to the Ashes, but I'll come back to it in a minute after Broad bowls this ball, swinging, but swinging too early, starting too wide. Bracey tumbles away in front of the slips to take it. I think the worry is that the next generation of England quick bowlers, or of medium fast bowlers, is already quite old. Overton, Stone and Ollie Robinson are all 27, and that's not really a good age to be starting your Test career, is it? It's a little bit late.
A little bit late.
I know that Overton, had a first game in 2017, so he was much younger, but he hasn't played very much. Broad in, Fawley aims a drive at that one. The swing beats Taylor again. All ends up. Broad is a frustrated man. He's just keeping a stiff upper lip about it at the moment. But very disappointed that he hadn't got Taylor there. And I guess Taylor, knowing how often he's been out to Broad, there must be something playing on his mind a little bit. And that was kind of a rather reckless shot, I think. A sign of perhaps the pressure that he feels when he's facing this particular bowler.
Quite possibly. But that thing about bowling, I don't know, 27, you're kind of in the prime. If you're going to get in, you might as well be in the prime.
But you should have played a few more games. That's when you're coming to your prime. You're still learning now, aren't you? This is another good ball. He may have just played inside the line of it. Really good over from Broad. Got the away swinger going nicely, and could have had Taylor a couple of times. 91 for 2. Nestlers.
Leia says, I can't wait for Joe to bowl himself unchanged from one end during the evening session in a desperate bid to keep his match fee. Ross McD is with us from Korea. Says, good evening, Gorillas. Glad to see the back of Williamson early doors. Amy Stevens says, here's to the inevitable English collapse. Kiwi and Ireland saying thanks for the broadcast, guys. Armchair Cricket Podcast says, you mean we flipping murdered them? Are you referring to... Oh, right, sorry. Forget that. Sean, I even inadvertently bought a copy of Portishead's Dummy on vinyl. I don't have a record player and it's still in its wrap. It's yours if you want it. Good album, Jay, but I've got it.
It's a strange thing buying vinyl records when you haven't got a record player.
But it's very kind of you to think of me. The light roller, crikey, I've been to the pub with no beer, but a country with no beer is too much for me, says the light roller.
Damn right.
Oh my God, Farong says imported beer ran out last week.
Anderson starts new over. A little bit of a way swing from around the wicket to the left-handed Conway. Conway's been up the other end, not faced much of the bowling since lunch. He's on 45 from 71 deliveries. Yes, Nestlers?
Imported beer ran out last week, so he's stuck drinking malt whiskey. 5-star hotels have Heineken and Carlsberg, but I'm not going to pay £10 for a small can. Desperate straits in Bangladesh.
That's a bit pricey, isn't it? Even in a place where it's not easy to get beer. £10 for a small can. Yeah. Anderson again around the wicket to Conway, again getting a little bit of a way movement, but possibly starting a bit too wide. Didn't fool Conway, let it go through the Bracey, and there is no run. An interesting little session this, 91 for 2. That big confidence boost for England in getting Kane Williamson out in the first over after lunch. And now a difficult period for Ross Taylor. Conway has to make sure he doesn't give it away, having batted so sensibly and watchfully and with good timing. So it's just a crucial little session here where it could go either way. Anderson in again, driven one-handedly really by Conway. Doesn't time it this time, straight to extra cover. There is no run.
This is a quality session of bowling, isn't it, by Jimmy and Broady here.
Yeah, but to go back to that point you were saying about these guys, I mean, you have got to get some experience into these guys. I mean, what if Brody and Anderson did break down going into the winter? And I know it's a long way ahead, and we've still got to play India, and we've still got to play these tests and one-day internationals. But if you went into it with a really inexperienced attack to Australia, you realise the game is over before you've got there, isn't it? Onto the back foot goes Conway, defends to the man in the off-Hayden position. That's the man almost parallel with the bowler, just off to the right of the strip, and there is no run. Definitely clouding up around London as we look from the high camera, presumably in some hotel perhaps, not that far from Lord's.
Post Office Tower?
Post Office Tower perhaps, yes, could be
Post Office Tower.
Anderson in again, Conway onto the front foot, remaining concentrated, defends to that close-in fielder again, and there is no run.
What is it called now?
It's BT Telecom Tower, isn't it?
BT Tower or something like that. Yeah.
I went to the revolving restaurant up there once.
Are you still dizzy?
No, it was really good.
I've been to the only revolving restaurant I've ever been to, and it's in Hobart, strangely enough. Anderson in, bowls full, dug out by Conway, who then inspects the bottom of his bat for damage. Lawrence steps in and does the fielding. That's the end of Anderson's over. He has figures of 1 for 23. New Zealand, it was a maiden, wasn't it? 91 for 2.
Well,
Nestle.
Ryan Cusack wonders, he says hello first from sunny Northampton. What is the problem with the score banner on your Facebook feed? 2 scores showing.
Ooh. Technical team, we'll have to have a look at that.
The knob twiddlers will twiddle their knobs over that. Jersey Oak says, has Hendo now started going out for pastries?
No, I haven't. No pastries have been had. No pastries for as long as I've had no beer.
He's a fit man these days. John Alford says, hi guys, great to be back listening from a balmy Madrid.
Absolutely balmy if you ask me. 3 slips in the gully, backward point, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and a long leg for Stuart Broad, coming in from the nursery end, striding those long legs, and he's looking to run it down the hill from leg stump and get Ross Taylor trapped in front, but he gets the bat out and flicks it away down to long leg and takes the single. Be happy to get away perhaps from Broad for the time being.
There's only one score banner on the Facebook. I don't know if he means that the score banner would have had England versus New Zealand over the lunch period, but that would have been the World Cup final. So
looked all right to me.
Yeah, that's fine.
AJ Alawala says, hi everyone.
Hi.
Is that it? Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
AJ.
But getting back to your point, if we're gonna go down this rabbit hole here, if you have Anderson and Broad as with that many Test wickets between them, you've got to assume that you want them fit, B, you want them to play, or at least a lot of series. They may not play every Test in New Zealand.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? As Broad bowls from around the wicket to the left-handed Conway, leaves it outside the off stump. That's the point. We know that we've got 7 Tests. We know there will be rotation. Don't you want to get an early look at these guys? Because if they don't play till the India Tests, we're talking about August. I think the first Test starts on the 4th of August. So they've got no real hope of getting some experience, and then they're thrown into the India series. I'd like to see. I want to see all of them get a game. Already again round the wicket to Conway. Conway tries to drive, gets a little bit of a drag on that, and I think he was aiming that through extra cover. He actually hit it straight back to Broad, and there is no run. It's a very difficult balancing act. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I want my best team to play. I'm sorry, but fuck that. I want my team to win, and I want my best team on the pitch. And if my best team on the pitch includes 2 of the best bowlers in fast bowlers ever in Test history, I'll have them, thanks. And that leaves me 2 spots. Ollie Robinson's getting a game here. I said I'd have had Stone instead of Woody in my side anyway. In fact, my bowling attack would have been this, but Wood would have been out and Stone would have been in. I didn't have space for Leach. I didn't think they would have either in English conditions. I know it's harsh on him, but it's the way it goes.
Broad driven. Oh, now just short of 3rd slip, I think there. It was Crawley going down. I don't think it was a chance. He's grinning about it. And there's no histrionics from Broad, so I'm guessing that was short of the fielder. He's he's quite tight in there at third slip, but it was well short of him, in fact. Got a long way to go down, Zach Crawley, hasn't he? He's quite a tall man. Did quite well to get something behind that. It was bouncing quite nastily. But, he did the job, 92 for 2. Conway on 45, looking for a maiden 50 in his first test match. Here is Broad, and he strokes this quite nicely up to mid-off. Nothing more than a defensive push, but firmly done. And there is no run. Yeah, I think it's really difficult there. I suppose you could look at... I mean, Broadie's played 4 county championship matches and has bowled pretty well. He's picked up wickets in all of them. Anderson has only played 2, and one of those was almost completely washed out. He didn't even get a bowl. So I suppose if he didn't play Anderson in this test, he would only get 1 test and perhaps a little bit of county cricket before the India series. Here is Broad again. As the slips go down, he's onto the front foot again. Conway playing that squarer this time into the offside, and that is the end of another over. It's 92 for 2.
Are we going to have one more?
Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Hello.
What's the matter with you guys? You
No,
were
I
about
was
to
asking you, are we
speak
gonna-
and then none of you did.
Are we going to have one more over? Or are we
One more
changing
over.
that?
It's 14:09 according to my computer.
Okie dokie.
So
Go on
we'll
then.
have one more over, and then we'll be replaced by the mighty Fred, the mighty Forthy, and the mighty Knuckle. Forthy must be staying up quite late for this. If he's in Melbourne, what time is it in Melbourne now? It must be about 1 o'clock in the morning, isn't it?
12. Was it 10 to 12 hours? 11 hours?
No, it's not
10,
that far ahead.
10 hours ahead.
40.
So I think it's just after midnight there, but by the time he's finished at tea, it will be 20 to 2. So
He's on
well done
lockdown.
him. Hope he hasn't got to get up in the morning for work. Anderson continuing to bowl to the right-handed Taylor, and Taylor again plays right in front of his pad, but works it down to a fairly square set long leg. Mark Wood does the fielding, and he takes another single. New Zealand move to 93 for 2. Taylor
Yeah.
has 6.
Jay Grover says, Hendo, never underestimate my ability to buy stupid shit at stupid times. I thought I was buying the CD. If any gorilla wants it, PM me, he says.
Well, as the only person that we know of who has bought a Gorilla Cricket shower curtain, it does sound like you do buy weird things at weird times. And you were talking about what you were going to do with it. I mean, have you tried using it as a shower curtain? Outside the off stump, Conway forward defends. Lawrence runs across the field, and there is no run.
Go back. See, Craig Overton doesn't excite me, I've got to say, as a bowler.
Well, I mean, I know what you're saying, but you keep hearing these things. Always put on a yard of pace. Well, if he has, then he's worth having a look at, isn't he?
Wow.
Because he's got height, and he's a very good bowler, I think. A little bit unexciting. I understand what you're saying about that, because hasn't been incredibly fast. He's late 70s, early 80s, if you're lucky. Full driven at by Conway. Sprawling dive by Burns. A deep set backward point. His glasses come off in the fielding, and Conway hurries through for the single. He was hoping that was going to elude him, run away to the boundary, take him to 49, but it's taken him to 46 instead. I don't know quite where he was aiming it. Just a little hint of a bit of an outside edge involved there, but it went all the way along the ground. New Zealand have moved on to 94 for 2. Now, watching Ollie Robinson, I must say, he reminded me very much of Mike Hendrick. He's a little bit fuller, perhaps, than Hendrick. Hendrick had a very laconic style, didn't he? Flicked away now by Taylor. That's gone quite fine. The man at long leg is really having to make ground, and does. Wood puts in the dive and just about saves that from going for the boundary. Taylor turning, looking for the third, but his partner wasn't interested, so just the couple. It reminded me very much of the sort of rhythmic, sort of rather almost lazy run-up of Hendrick, who was another tall man, a man who never took 5 wickets for England, but was always on the money, wasn't he? Very good servant for Derbyshire. We're just looking out to see if, as he fielded that, whether he was in contact with the sponge. Doesn't look like it from that replay.
The ball sort of come back and hit him a couple of times, didn't it? But I don't think he was ever there. He's not in contact with it. It's fine.
No.
Move on.
Move on. Nothing to see here. We don't think.
Oh God, they're going to look at that back.
No.
They're going to look at that back foot
So.
now for hours.
It's hard to tell. I mean, maybe the flap of his trousers was in contact.
It's there.
That's about all.
Yeah.
I think otherwise he's fine.
Knuckle is signalling 4 next to me here.
Really?
I think actually when it comes back and hits his arm, his foot might actually be there. His foot is touching the sponge and the ball is touching his arm. I think that's 4. I think he's right. Unless it touches his arm sharp. Oh, you see, this is just anal. Because then his foot comes off the sponge.
Well, what's been given?
4, I think.
I don't think it has. No, Taylor's only gone on to 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the 2. Anderson in again. Bowls to Taylor. Aims own expansive drive at that one. It's beaten by Anderson's angry. Bracey has dropped it. So good job he didn't get an edge. And Ross Taylor keeps looking up at the sky. Maybe he's looking for, I don't know, some sort of spiritual guidance.
Divine intervention, maybe.
Divine intervention.
Right. It's time for a change, boys.
I'm not sure it's the end of the over yet, Bear.
I think it was, wasn't it? That was the last
Was
ball.
that the final ball?
Oh, no, Nicholls is telling me everything here to the left. He's told me there's 1 ball left.
Do pay attention, Ben. 96 for 2.
No.
Anderson 1 for 27. It's his 11th over that he's just about to finish. He's in. Bowls to Taylor. Taylor drives through mid-on. Finds the gap. That's going to speed away despite the efforts of is that Burns after it? Or Pope. And it is 4 runs. 100 up for New Zealand. Good time for me to leave. 100 for 2. Taylor 12. Conway 46.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
And Fred and Forthy are here. They will take you through while Knackle takes my place.
Yes, well, that 10 past 2 changeover has turned into a 2:15 changeover. Thank you, Hendo. In fact, actually, when Hendo said in my computer it says 14:09, I think he was referring to the year that his computer was built rather than the time. Welcome back, Forthy, from the other side of the world.
Oh, thank you very much. And just to clarify, it's only 11:15 here, no later than that.
And welcome back to Knuckle, who's sitting in the important chair with all the knobs in front of him that need twiddling.
Yes, I'm surrounded by a prison of laptops.
100 for 2 is the score. New Zealand having won the toss and opted to bat this morning, or elected to bat in the historic terminology of cricket. I noticed on the Lancashire stream, actually this was pointed out to me in the last county game, they said wickets will be pitched at 11 a.m, which sounds like something from the 19th century. I think that's a very archaic reference there, but well done to them. As Broad starts a new over, and he bowls to Conway. It's outside the off stump, coming in towards the off stump, but well away from it, and Bracey takes.
Well, I mean, that's supposedly the cricketing equivalent of kicking off, but if you're putting in the stumps at 11, that's surely at least a couple of minutes until players starting. It seems a little bit late unless you're, throwing them from the, stumps in and immediately we're away.
Well, there's usually a bit of drizzle at Old Trafford, so unsurprising that they start 10 minutes late. Wickets will be pitched. I think if anyone can do a Google search for from when that terminology dates, I'd be quite interested, but not that interested. As Broad comes in again and bowls a shorter ball, which is hooked fine. He didn't really connect with it. It may have come off the glove, did Conway. It goes to backward square leg, and a single is taken.
It's been a very good spell from Broad and Anderson after lunch, as that 4 was the first boundary since the lunch break, the first boundary in 10 overs, and it's been a really testing time for Ross Taylor, who is never the most fluent of starters, and Devon Conway has, since Ross Taylor came to the wicket, has scored 2 runs off 19 balls.
And Broad back over the wicket this time to the right-handed Taylor. It's a full ball and off stump, and a defensive shot is played. The ball goes to cover. Yeah, that 4 in the last over of Anderson. For a split second, I thought Anderson had got through there. Actually, it was a very late play, and he did meet the middle of the bat. But Anderson he's a very testing bowler. Even when conditions, the pitch conditions and the weather conditions don't seem to be suiting him, you really do have to be very watchful against him, because he's picked up so much experience in the many years he's been playing cricket that he knows his game, in the modern parlance. As Broad is in again to the man with all the initials, and full of ball on off stump, which is chipped back towards Broad. He leans down, gets a hand to it, and then shakes his hand as the ball ricochets to mid-on, as if to say, oh, that hurt him a little bit. And it's his bowling hand. You don't really want to get your bowling hand in the way unless you absolutely have to.
He probably
We shall
didn't
have
there.
some
Probably didn't there because
tweets
mid-on was
and
in
other
the way.
messages at the end of the over, which is in 2 balls' time.
When the ball's pitched up outside off stump, Ross Taylor is not getting the biggest stride in. He's playing those drives slightly on the walk, on the shuffle. You talked about him playing very late when the ball's on the stumps, and that appears to be what he's waiting for. He seems to be, certainly in this innings thus far, a lot more comfortable when the ball's on middle stump than when it's outside off stump.
Well, as well as having played for New Zealand at Lords a number of times, he did play for Middlesex for a while. It's an unspectacular spell, it's fair to say. This next ball from Broad is well outside the off stump and going further. Taylor is uninterested, but I seem to remember him scoring some runs in 50-over cricket for Middlesex.
Yeah, he's had some success.
Not in the Longley game.
No, he's had championship stints for Sussex and Nottinghamshire again, sort of 2 half seasons, as it were, so 16 games.
Yeah, but specifically at Lords, he did play a season for Middlesex, if I remember correctly. It's hard to keep track with the number of overseas players that dip in and out, but my memory tells me he didn't do particularly well. Broad to complete his over from the nursery end to Ross Taylor. He's in now and bowls. It's on middle and leg, and it's turned in front of square leg by Taylor out to the leg side sweeper for a single. He keeps the strike at the end of the 33rd over. It's 102 for 2. Let's hear what the people are saying.
Well, Brian Barish on wickets will be pitched says it sounds like an Amish barn raising, and as long as there's fried Oreos, I'm in. Now, Melbourne plus 9 hours. I think we've covered that one. It varies. It's 11 hours in when the clocks change. Then it's 11 hours. So currently it's 9 hours. So perfectly respectable 11:20 here. And thanks for asking. But I'm transitioning in my life, so I don't have to get up for work in the morning. And the rest of us in regional Victoria, not in lockdown. So that's good to hear. And finally, listening in the Highlands, and my dad doing the same in Christchurch, New Zealand, from Jules. It's great to have you back. I just hope you will be covering the Ashes once the busy summer is over.
A lot of cricket this year. T20 World Cup in the middle of it. The second half of the IPL, the cricket, quite literally. Well, certainly if you're watching England, India, and Australia, never stops. We'll have a change of bowling. As this man comes back into the attack, dismissed Tom Latham before lunch.
So here's to you, Ollie Robinson. Dizzy loves you now, you change your tune. You're not a buffoon. How will you bowl, Ollie Robinson? No one took more county wickets than you the last year or two. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Oh, and he goes past the outside edge of Taylor first ball. It was a pretty nothing looking ball just outside the off stump, and Taylor went to play a defensive shot and it moved away and beat the outside edge. He's bowled 6 overs before that ball. He's taken 1 for 17. I think those figures are slightly I don't think he bowled quite as well as that, but he's got off the mark in Test cricket, which will be a huge relief to him and his captain and his teammates, because I remember Pankaj Roy,
Pankaj Singh.
Pankaj Singh in the when India were here in 2014, bowled for hours and hours and hours and didn't take a wicket. The next ball is full on off stump and defended to cover, and it certainly will get into a bowler's head. Certainly a bowler who's used to taking wickets, as Robinson is, if he went for a spell with that, but he didn't. He got Latham to chop on and looked hugely delighted, as you'd expect, with his maiden Test wicket. 102 for 2 is the score. Ross Taylor has 13 from 26 balls. Conway, who's also on his debut, has 47 from 85 and has looked, on the whole, pretty good, I think it needs to be said, as Robinson bowls again, and this is turned a straight ball, a bit too straight perhaps to turn to the leg side. Taylor gets something on it. It goes to forward, short leg, no run.
Even though Taylor has been good off his pads, there's a clear plan from we saw it from Broad and Anderson, and now from Robinson to bowl straight at Ross Taylor and try and bowl for that LBW. They've got the field set for it, wondering if he'll just fall over to the offside and make himself an LBW candidate. Plays with very low hands, Ross Taylor, and does place a little bit across the ball.
Well, there are 3 slips as Robinson bowls one outside the off stump, which Taylor lifts his hands high and leaves. So there seem to be, if they are attacking leg stump, they're not over attacking on leg stump, if that's the right way to put it, because you probably wouldn't have a third slip if you were aiming at his hip.
No, but they've got the mid wicket in, so it's not a completely offside dominant field. You are sort of covering all angles, and I suppose the flick to leg can result in a leading edge to third slip or to gully.
That's true. Or possibly one that bounces a little bit, although we haven't seen much of that, except perhaps one more from Wood. A horrible shot from Taylor. It was a ball outside the off stump, and he looked like he went to cut it. It may have gone under the bat, and he took one hand off the bat, and the bat ended up flailing round to the leg side with one hand on it. They're looking around the fielders as if to say, did he get an edge on that? And nobody seems quite sure. Nobody's appealed.
It came in a very long way off the seam.
Yeah, it didn't go under the bat, it went over the bat, and he did take one hand off the handle. Bracey took it down the leg side.
It started a good foot outside off stump and then came in very sharply and passed just over the top of off stump, and Taylor was done in by that seam movement and the ball skidding through, hence the slightly ugly looking stroke.
Robinson bowls again outside the off stump and going a little bit further. And another thing a wicket will do for a bowler, of course, is to make him bowl that much better, because you get confident, you feel better, you get into some kind of a rhythm, and you expect to do well. The end of the over, what are people saying in the ether?
Well, I was just about to say that I agree with Hendo on the Mike Hendrick comparison, by the way. He looks like a rather more energetic Mike Hendrick, but yes, I can see it. Jeff Perkins has written in with a little rhyme. I don't think we had this one. Best to avoid the country that's run out of beer, but there's something worse that you ought to fear. There's something so morbid, irritating and crazy than to listen to Hendo when deprived of pastry. That's almost rhyming, isn't it, towards the end there? It just reminds me of Up the Junction by Squeeze, which is a sequence of half rhymes.
Yes. Up the Junction. Yeah, very good song. Broad starting a new over to Conway. Hasn't faced much recently, and he basically hasn't faced that one because it was so wide and high outside the off stump. It was almost a temptation for the umpire to call it wide, but he didn't.
Yeah, very loopy indeed from Stuart Broad. I think Conway would have been fairly ill-advised to attempt an uppercut at that delivery on a pitch that is, not flat or dead by any means, but is not all that difficult to bat on, considering it's the first test of the English summer.
Broad has none for 27 in his 12th over. He bowls again outside the off stump, but closer to it and fuller, and again Conway leaves.
Mark Atherton's always very keen on getting your best bowlers on immediately after lunch, and they all get a bee in the bonnet commentators, don't they? One of his is you never go out and slouch into the afternoon session. I think he'd be pleased that Broad and Anderson really took the game on immediately after the lunch interval.
I think it would be. I think most teams do try and do that. You go with your two most dangerous bowlers in the conditions after lunch, and you expect nothing less from Broad and Anderson than the excellence that they've mostly shown. Apart from that,
this is a horrible ball. It's short and way down the leg side. Conway swings at it, but he misses it. The keeper misses it as well, and it's down for 4 byes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 byes. One of those sets of 4 byes that is a bit harsh on James Bracey. Maybe could have got an extra step into to his right, but that started leg sidey and swung a long way further down leg after it passed the stumps, and even at full stretch James Bracey couldn't get there.
It's only harsh on Bracey if you automatically assume that everything that is a bye is the fault of the wicketkeeper, which I never have. So I don't feel the need to exonerate him on that particular occasion. Byes are not necessarily the wicketkeeper's fault. As Broad bowls again, this is closer to the off stump, left by Conway.
I think many other people are not as forgiving as you.
I know that's true in life as well as in cricket.
Which is not a sentence I ever thought I'd say. But yeah, there are some categories of byes that are very much not the wicketkeeper's fault. Conway has been in the 40s for a very long time.
Yeah, as I was saying, he hadn't faced all that much straight after lunch. It tended to be Taylor hogging the strike. And I did see a stat earlier from, of course, the indefatigable Andrew Sampson to say that he may have been, where ball-by-ball records are available, he may have taken longer to actually face strike on debut than anybody else, as broad bowls absolutely off stump and Conway leaves, because I think the first 3 overs were taken by Latham.
Yeah, interesting. Yes, it did take him a little while, which, Hendo was trying to work out whether that was a good thing or not. I think you'd be a little bit anxious to face your first ball, wouldn't you? I think on test day as an opener.
There's 2 ways of looking at it. You're probably quite happy. Many batsmen are quite happy to be down the other end just to have a look first. But then you want, once you've looked at the bowling, you do want to face your first ball. The longer it goes on, the more pressure that'll build on you, I would have thought. Last ball of Broad's 12th over and the 35th of the innings. He bowls it, and it's driven sweetly through extra cover by Conway. He's timed this very well. There's no chance of... Or is there a chance? There is no chance of cutting that off. He gets 4 runs. That's his maiden test 50. New Zealand 110 for 2.
There's not one boy for me. I must have 2 or 3. I need 4.
Finally breaks through to his maiden test 50, 51 off 91 balls with 6 boundaries and by and large a very good innings indeed, and it gets this jingle.
50 runs, you're 50 runs, well done, well done, well done, well done. 50 runs, you're 50 runs, the job is only just begun.
Picking up the domestic form and the white ball international form that's got him into this team, and has had him. He got a New Zealand central contract before he'd even played for New Zealand A, or I think was even eligible to play for New Zealand. That's how highly they've rated him.
New over from Robinson, which is played back so straight down the wicket by Taylor that it hits the stumps at the other end. It's been a while since some tweets, so maybe we'll get some in between balls.
Well, we would, but there's been a little bit of a drought just during the last over. So unless my feed isn't repeating itself as often as it should, I've tried 1 or 2.
Give it some sardines.
Things, yes. But I thought instead, I just had a quick look at debut hundreds at Lords, not wishing to put the Kai book on comment. There's only been in Test matches 5, and only 2 by opposition players.
Dropped into the leg side by Taylor towards mid-wicket. Lawrence comes in, but no chance of a run out, so he wisely doesn't shy. So a single to Taylor. He's on 13, 110 for 2.
You'll probably remember 2 English ones from this century.
Andrew Strauss.
Andrew Strauss get one.
Yes, and he very nearly got 2, but NASA ran him out.
He did run him out.
I was there. I was there that day.
I was there as well, and I was absolutely furious.
Was it Nasser Hussein's last test? Or last series? Certainly.
The writing was on the wall for Nasser, and it was all about
that. Was his last day of?
Yes.
That was his last day of Test cricket, actually.
Hit the winning runs and then stepped into the commentary box 2 weeks later.
That's right. Matt Pryor got debut 100 at Lords against the West Indies 3 years later.
As round the wicket comes Robinson to Conway, was that, or to Taylor? No, I think it was to Conway. And it's turned down very fine to fine leg, where Wood, he dives for it, stops the ball, gets it back in, 2 runs accrue, 111 for 2. I think it's 113 for 2. I think the Sky's ticker feed was wrong there. It's certainly Conway on strike because he's left-handed. It's an easy way to tell. He has 53 now. So just 2 people have made hundreds on Test debut, which happens to be at Lords. Is that what you're saying?
5 in total.
Two opposition players.
One of them is sort of Ganguly.
One of them is indeed, and you won't know the other one unless you're insane.
Next ball is on off stump. Sorry,
Harry Graham. No problem. Harry Graham for Australia in 1893.
Remember it well.
And then the only other chap was a chap who came up in earlier today, John Hampshire, against the West Indies in 1969.
Yeah.
That was his only Test century as well.
Yeah, he was a very good player, John Hampshire. He was He was appointed captain of Yorkshire as Robinson bowls outside the off stump. It bounces twice before it gets to Bracey, and he's left by Conway. He was appointed captain to replace Geoffrey Boycott, which precipitated civil war in Yorkshire, and for a few weeks was on the front pages of all newspapers in this country. I'm not just talking about sporting pages or sporting newspapers. It was an enormous event, and probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 books have been written about it. That's how much of a seismic event it was. In Yorkshire.
I think Don Mosey wrote a very good book on it. I seem to remember, a rather grumpy commentator.
Yeah, there's an appeal for a strangle down the leg side as a full ball on leg stump is flicked at by Conway and missed. The bowler didn't appeal, but Bracey did.
Actually, John Hampshire's last test was 1975 when they dug the pitch up and it had to be abandoned.
Yeah. Turns out that George Taylor was not innocent.
Yes, he wasn't innocent after all.
George Davies,
there
wasn't
it? Spoilers.
George Davies, wasn't it?
George Davies, yes. Who did I say?
George Taylor, I don't know.
And he was a World Cup referee or something.
Well, I think the George Davies was innocent of that particular crime, but not of others.
That's right, yeah. George Courtney?
George Courtney was a referee. I'm getting completely confused. It's old
We
age.
digress. It's my fault. We're digressing.
Let's. Are there any tweets? Has it?
Oh, hang on. I got distracted there. No. It could be that I've. Let me just talk amongst yourselves.
That's the refresh button. It could be a post-prandial lull amongst our Twitterati.
They've all had some good liquid lunches and are settling down for an afternoon with one ear on the cricket and one eye closed as Wood bowls onto the leg stump of Taylor. I think that's come off his 5 pad down to fine leg. 1 run to the total, and it is indeed a leg by, 114 for 2.
Here comes the fast man from Durham.
Do you know Mark Wood? Yes, he is an England bowler, quite good and pretty quick. So just a normal guy. Of course, except for just one thing. What? He thinks that he's a horse. Right. What?
His spell before lunch started in quite threatening fashion, but then became really rather easy for Devon Conway and Kane Williamson to lead. He was bowling wide both sides of the wicket, but has hit Devon Conway a couple of times. Mark Wood, that skiddy bouncer of his short leg going in now.
Yeah, he did surprise Conway with a quicker ball, a shorter ball, and he does have the ability to do that. You know, if he could harness that with consistency, he'd be an unbelievable bowler. As it is, he's merely a very good bowler on his day, and sometimes quite ordinary. The next ball is full on off stump and defended by Conway. The question is Mark Wood, with all this succession of younger, fitter bowlers coming into the England setup, you would imagine that Broad and Anderson aside, who will go on presumably as long as they want to go on, Wood is the man whose long-term future is most at threat.
He's a little bit older than some of the others as well. He's 31 years old rather than Archer's 26, and Stone similar age, and among other very fast bowlers. Saqib Mahmood, early 20s.
Short ball outside the off stump, and it's fended by Conway square on the offside. Looked a quicker ball. Haven't seen the speed gun reading as yet.
In England, Mark Wood doesn't have much of a test record to speak of.
He doesn't, and there comes a time when you think, well, you look at him sometimes and you think, he's got all the makings of a fantastic bowler, but at some point you need to say, well, the figures need to back that up, and probably in Woody's case they haven't.
No, I mean, he was outstanding on the last tour of South Africa and in the West Indies before that.
One test in the West Indies, I remember, it was extraordinary as Wood bowls again short. And there's thoughts of an uppercut over the slips by Conway. A competent white ball player, a very good white ball player, but he pulls out of that at the last minute, probably wisely, with a few slips in, which you don't tend to get in white ball cricket.
Yes, I think Mark Wood reminds me a little bit of Brett Lee, who is probably a similar pace. And neither of them, although Brett Lee was a better bowler, let's be honest.
He was a fantastic bowler.
Well, he was, and he helmed the Australian attack after the Legends.
310 test wickets at a shade over 30 for Brett Lee.
But when he was, however...
Next ball is straighter and defended back to the bowler.
in, say, up until about 2005, before he took over the Australian attack, he was quite reminiscent of what he didn't really do enough with it and went for about 4.5 and over. And then, in the second phase of his career, he was much more lethal.
Yeah.
Well, if Mark Wood can pull out a second phase of his career like Brett Lee, then everybody will be absolutely delighted.
Lee was magnificent in that 2005
So
Ashes.
I think the odds are very much against that, I'm afraid.
10 past.
Hendo, mute yourself as the next ball is on off stump and defended. And we're going to have a changeover in 2 minutes and or 7 minutes on the Hendo scale. End of the over. Let's have some tweets, if any.
Yes, so finally, fourthie from J Grover 2307. Fourthie, not Fred's favourite jingle is Coley for Cats. The man knows his music despite a baffling love of the Manic Street Preachers. And he added very quickly afterwards, Fourthie is now my enemy, or at least his computer is, which came about 30 seconds after I said there were no tweets, so there we are.
Yes, Jay Grover is a trial for all new people on social media.
Is he?
Yeah, he's one of those who tries to exert his influence over the newbies. Be strong, stand up to him. Give as good as you can get.
Okay.
The last over of the spell for our threesome will be begun by Robinson, full ball and off stump, and Taylor defends. Taylor, if you, I'm not saying if you allow him to get off to a good start. I mean, he does all the work himself, but he's a man who can cash in big, and he's looking at the bowling attack, and he's looking at the pitch and the conditions, and he's probably thinking to himself, I've done it before, I can make a big score, and we know he can. He's got a terrific test record over a long period of time. How old is Ross Taylor now?
37 years old.
37.
37.
Yeah. Has he scored a test match ton at Lords as Robinson bowls to him, and it's driven to mid-on?
No,
Anderson Fields.
Pretty sure he has. I have a feeling that there have been very few New Zealand test cricket tons at Lords. I think I remember seeing there were 4.
So it may be, I'm putting thoughts into his head here, but it may be that he would like to get a Lord's ton.
Let me correct that immediately. Only 4 New Zealand opening batsmen have ever scored a Test 100 at Lords, so immediately correct myself before I get slaughtered.
Robinson bowls again. It's turned. A straight ball is turned into the leg side, which is something that Taylor does to straight balls, but straight to mid-wicket.
Sorry, I can tell you that Ross Taylor does not have a Test 100 at Lords. This is his 5th match here, his 7th innings. He has 2 50s, highest of 66 in 2013, scored 62 in 2015 as well, but no 100 as yet.
It used to be said that England's opponents were often more motivated by playing at Lords than the home team, who do it regularly, and which is why England had a pretty poor record at Lords for a long time. There's not quite so much now, as the next ball is on off stump and defended to cover.
I think they failed to win an Ashes match at
from
Lords
1934
to 2009, maybe.
Well, that 2009 win was the first against anyone at Lords for, I think, 5 years or so. Yeah, certainly Glenn McGrath was made Lords his home. The pavilion end was absolutely unplayable at Lords most matches.
In comes Robinson. And that's an appeal for LBW, which is given. It was a full straight ball. We've managed to box Taylor with talks of hundreds at Lords. Is he going to review it? I'm not sure that he is, because it looked like it was going to hit middle and leg stump. And Taylor gets some advice from his non-striking batsman Conway. And I think he's going to keep walking and head to the pavilion. No? Yes, he is. I thought he lifted his glove as if to make the T signal, but he tucks his bat under it and walks off. Another wicket for Robinson. 3rd wicket down for New Zealand, 114 for 3.
That's the line England have been bowling to Ollie Robinson with all of to Ross Taylor rather, with all of Ollie Robinson. Broad and Anderson have been bowling very straight at him. Taylor missed the straight ball on that occasion, and I think he was well advised, or Devon Conway was well advised to tell him not to review, because that looked pretty straight, clattering into middle and off stump.
Yeah, the only thing that possibly could have saved him was an inside edge, but it was well away from the bat, and it looked like it was as out as LBWs get. So Ross Taylor has gone, a very good wicket for England, and they've been exceptional bowling after lunch. We've had an hour after lunch now. What was the score at lunch?
Score at lunch was 85 for 1, so they have added only 29 runs for the loss of 2 wickets in the next 13 overs.
Yeah, which is terrific, because under normal circumstances this is when you'd expect the batsman to get on top, on a good wicket with the sun out and the ball getting a bit older. You'd expect it to be the batsman's session, but England have bowled particularly well, all the bowlers actually. Broad and Anderson straight off after lunch, and Robinson, perhaps lesser, Wood, we've only seen him for an over. But as a unit, they have bowled particularly well, and they've got their rewards. What are people saying, Forthy?
Well, let's have a quick look. Right, okay. Yard sale cleanup continues. Please can we get a shout out for Hannah, who has been an invaluable helper all week. This is also her first guerrilla cricket experience. Thanks, Hannah. Plus a photo from Mark Zip. And from William Francis, what's your opinion on Bumble's observation that Wood is a fast medium bowler trying to bowl unnaturally fast, hence all the injuries and inconsistency?
He's pretty successful at bowling fast, to be fair. He is faster, I think, than any England bowler for a long time, other than Archer.
I think he's actually faster than Archer in terms of peak and average pace. He's one of the very fastest bowlers in the world. I do understand what Bumble's saying in one sense, that he's got quite a slight frame to be bowling that fast, but I don't think there's any suggestion that Wood is doing anything other than what comes completely naturally to him in terms of his pace.
Let's have the jingle for the new batsman. And this will be the last ball of our threesome. We're going to be replaced by, Nicholls staying on, but Nestlers and Hendo are coming in for Forthy and myself. We'll have the jingle after this ball in the changeover. It's going to be Robinson bowling to Henry Nicholls. And he's just dropped this behind square. Gets off the mark straight away with a single, with 2 actually, as it's gone backward a square on the offside. So at the end of the over, it's 116 for 3, and it's farewell for me for the moment.
And it's hello to Hendo and to Nestlers, and hello to Henry Nicholls.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and more. You know Henry Nicholls is racking up the score. Dozens of bowlers try to bring him down. Henry Nicholls just laughs and goes to town.
Very fine player, Henry Nicholls. Has been in superb form over the last 2 or 3 years. He's got 4 scores of 145 plus in the last since the start of 2018, 600s in total, and has really established himself as a superb middle order player for this excellent New Zealand team. But Hendo, England have been very much on top since lunch.
I think so, yeah. I mean, getting the wicket of Williamson is an enormous boost. You get that in the first over after lunch, then you've got the wind behind you a little bit.
In comes Wood. Speaking of the wind behind him, always looks as though he's bowling with a following wind. Conway leaves alone outside off stump, through to the keeper. There is no run.
Yeah, I was just listening to that before I came on air about the talk about Bumble and Wood looking like a fast medium bowler trying to bowl really, really fast, and I totally understand what he's saying. And that's perhaps, okay, you can look at Archer and say, well, he's got injuries even though he looks very smooth. He's never looked smooth, I wouldn't say, Wood. He has always looked as if it's a big effort for him to bowl fast. And as you say, he's not the biggest man.
Well, there's a lot of energy going through that frame. There's the momentum of his action is all towards the batter, hence he sort of end up leaning torpedo-like towards the batter and often falls over a lot as he goes full to Conway, drives back to the bowler, and there is no run. Devon Conway seems to have a lot of time to play Mark Wood off the front foot, which is impressive when Wood is bowling 94, 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think he's had him in difficulty when he's bowled it short, but he hasn't bowled short at him very often. I think, okay, he's been sparing, and in some ways that's the best thing to do. But he did look circumspect a couple of those times when he bowled him, took blows on the body. I think he maybe just needs to concentrate on that sort of length for a little while.
Yes, he has hit him a couple of times. There is the short leg in place. It's too wide of off stump, but easy lead for Conway through to the keeper. There is no run. It's in that very uncomfortable position or area for a batter, and I think the fact that Wood is a bit shorter and skiddier helps. When it's in that armpit region, in that rib cage region, you can't get on top of it, you can't hook it properly, you can't get out of the way of it, and he's been discomforted by a couple of balls in that region.
And he probably hasn't played that many many bowlers of this pace. And as you say, if it doesn't really get up, if the bounce that doesn't really get up and rear up, it is very difficult. He took his eye off it a couple of times, I would say. Then he decided to pull. I think one of them he pulled and he got a 4 from it. But it's not bouncing that high. I don't think it's not a really springy surface.
Fourth ball of the over from Wood, continuing round the wicket to Conway. That's well wide of off stump and an easy leave for Devon Conway. Wood has been a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, his line's been poor, I think, today. He now has switched round the wicket to the left-hander, and he's, even on that basis, I think he should be angling the ball in at him, trying to get him sort of discomforted on leg stump and cramp for room. But those last 2 deliveries have just been wide outside the off stump. They're absolutely nothing, really.
No, it doesn't. The pace is all very well, and is a major factor. And when Wood gets it right, he can be absolutely thrilling and unplayable. But that was a rather nothing delivery. There's a slight breeze blowing from left to right, leg to offside as the left-hander faces. So it's a short delivery which Conway does pull or hook really round the corner. Robinson is down there at long leg, and they take the single. But he does seem to be more comfortable, as you say, Hendo, playing the pull shot rather than trying to fend at it.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting also to look at Henry Nicholls. I mean, you're talking about he's established himself in that middle order, but he was having a bit of a struggle before he had that winter. And with all the cricket that's on TV now, I remember during the winter watching him bat. Can't remember whether it was against Pakistan or the West Indies, but he really struggled in one of those innings and was dropped 2 or 3 times early on before he got to 50, I think. And went on to get a really big 100 in the end, and that seemed to get him going. Before that, he hadn't scored a 50 for something like 13 innings, so he did have a little bit of a struggle. And there was talk about whether he would keep his place in the side at that point.
Last ball of the over from Wood, bowling to Nicholls. He's over the wicket to this left-hander, a slightly mad LBW appeal to a ball that pitched about a foot outside leg stump. Nobody is particularly interested, apart from Mark Wood. The route is keeping Wood interested, as is Bracey. Oh, they're going to review it. I'm convinced that pitched outside leg stump, but they are going to go for the review and ask umpire Richard Illingworth to do some work in the third umpire's chair.
Yeah,
I'm going to look very silly if this pitched in line.
It's not always easy to tell when it's quite full. Certainly the angle that he bowls at would suggest it's pitched outside leg, and I still think looking at that it has done. If anything, it's only going to be hitting the leg stump, so it hasn't really come back into him, has it, the left-hander? So,
well, I think it's probably hitting leg stump, but I think it's pitched quite a considerable distance outside leg stump. Nesthers, how did you see that?
It's hard. No, it's pitched outside, isn't it?
I think it probably has.
Yeah,
there
you go. It's not a foot, as much as I was saying, but certainly a good few inches outside leg stump, and it's hit him outside leg stump as well. So England lose in slightly pointless fashion their first review. Three unsuccessful reviews per innings, of course, in these times of home umpires.
They will have a good laugh about it afterwards, but you've made a bit of a ricket there, boys.
Yes, indeed.
Not Fred, says Jay Grover. I've no issue with fourth. I've known you for years, and you're still a half-bright sub-Randian bellend. I don't know what a Randian...
I don't know what it is.
Ayn Rand.
Ah, okay.
Ayn Rand. I thought he was talking about him being Randy, which is a horrible, even worse thought, and funnier.
O'Neill Harris says, keep building up the NZ batters to make centuries. Seems to help England get wickets.
Robinson in his first really poor delivery is outside off stump and short and punched away by Devon Conway. Nicely played off the back foot with a vertical bat. Anderson chases out towards the cover boundary and they'll come through for an easy 3 out to the longish boundary.
I think the thing with Conway is it's the timing, as we've been saying, that is, making us think this guy has got something special.
Yeah,
he's not a slogger. He's not. It's just watching the timing of the of the strokes that is making us drool.
There was one. I'll come to that after this delivery from Robinson as he's round the wicket to the left-handed Nicholls, who's back in defence and blocked back to the bowler. There is no run. So here's first 4, that drive through the covers with the open hands, but it was the shot after that, the very firm, basically a forward defensive with pretensions that zipped past cover for 2 runs that you think that's a really, really authoritative stroke.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to look out for the fact that he's going to face. He's not going to necessarily face better bowlers because you can't really say that there are many better pairs than Broad and Anderson at the top of an order. But he is going to face more difficult conditions to bat, and I think there is just a little bit of a gap between bat and pad when he's looking to drive. A few inside edges.
Robinson into Nicholls, who does like the cut shot. Tends to camp on the back foot, which is outside off stump, and Nicholls leaves alone through to the sprawling, rolling Bracey behind the stumps, and there is no run. James Bracey has kept tidily one sort of semi-misfield down the leg side, but he was at full stretch.
He looks solid, I think.
Who does?
Yeah, Bracey. Yeah,
yes.
I think so. I think he's done well, and I think he's been unlucky to concede 8 wides, to be honest. I think certainly the second one of those, he had absolutely no chance of getting anywhere near.
Yeah, I said that at the time, the set of 4 byes. It was just one of those things that no keeper really could have done very much about. Robinson into Nicholls, who blocks solidly up to mid-on, and there is no run. Very organised player, Henry Nicholls, very compact and a player. You were talking about Hendo. He had that struggle in that innings against the West Indies, and he went on big. That's what he does. He has since the start of 2018, 11 50+ scores, of which 6 have been hundreds, and 4 of them have been 145+. So
well, he certainly makes you suffer if you do put him down, doesn't he? That's the thing. He's a man who's able to go big, having got his chance.
Round the wicket comes Robinson to Nicholls. 4 slips in place. So he's in round the wicket and bowls an LBW appeal a little bit too high, I think, possibly outside the line of off stump, beating Nicholls on the inside edge. Michael Goff, very, very fine umpire. He's not especially interested. It looked as though it hit him a little bit too high. Good delivery though from Robinson from round the wicket, coming in and beating the inside edge. Joe Root decides not to waste the second review, but good delivery from Robinson.
Yeah, I like what I've seen of Robinson. I had only seen a little bit of him bowling. Obviously you read about his exploits and how good his numbers look. But the only time I'd seen him was a little bit of the live stream of the intra-squad game. I think it was Butler v Stokes last summer before the tests got underway behind closed doors. And I don't know, just a few balls of watching him and he thought he's got something. And today, again, ball just seems to gather pace off the pitch. He's got an easy, rhythmic, almost lazy run-up. But there's plenty in that action. And, one ball he bowled to Ross Taylor that he brought back to him and came back about a foot. Phenomenal delivery.
Hits the seam hard, doesn't he? Very upright seam. He's in full delivery. Nicholls defending with soft hands, which has got a couple of the New Zealand batters in trouble. Later and Williamson both sort of essentially defending the ball off the inside edge onto their own stumps, but this time inside edge onto pad, and there is no run. End of the over, the 40th of the innings. New Zealand 120 for 3. Things aren't looking quite as easy as they were before lunch.
No, it's looking to be a very good competitive test match at the moment, I think you have to say. It could fall one way or the other in the next half an hour, 40 minutes, or it could just build up to a slightly bigger crescendo by the end of the day. It's just both teams battling slightly for the upper hand at the moment.
Yeah,
I
indeed.
would say.
The last New Zealand-England test at Lords was an absolute cracker in 2015. Fantastic game that was. We've been spoilt really in England. The Test cricket has been almost uniformly of very high quality.
Yeah.
As Wood comes in, I'm aware we'll get to some tweets after this ball from Mark Wood, continuing around the wicket. Just a couple of slips in places. Conway defends hurriedly to Ollie Pope at deep short leg, and there is no run.
Well, on the tweet front, it's just an Indo chatting to the Cricketing Life and Ganguly about Conway, but so far Ganguly has not joined in with the Twitter conversation.
Well, what have we got on the rest of the socials?
We're up to date, I believe, although Robert Ian Atkinson says enjoying the coverage here in Geneva. Archer still to come back, and he's a younger prospect.
26 years old, yeah, Jofra Archer. Hopefully will be back for some of the India series, but the priority is the T20 World Cup and the Ashes as he recovers from elbow surgery. Wood in short, pulled nicely by Conway again, flashing past the head of Ollie Pope. This time there is a man out there at deep square leg, Zach Crawley, so it'll just be a single.
Yeah, Ganguly still hasn't responded.
Yeah, that conversation was about debut hundreds at Lords.
Yeah, and it's they've included Ganguly in it, but he's not biting.
Well, if Anandu's still up and tweeting about cricket, he could have stayed on till tea.
Oh, indeed. Speaking of people from far-flung corners of the world, we'll have Messi Jez from just outside Perth for the third session today.
Third session, yes, indeed. So we'll say goodbye to Fourthie. So one Australian or based commentator replacing another.
We'll zip our way across the landmass as this is a full delivery on leg stump, which Nicholls works through the onside. Anderson chases from wideish mid-on back to the mid-wicket boundary, and they come through 4-2.
Focusing on this child with his signed cricket hat, Australian cricket hat, aren't they? Was he the Canastella earlier? Oh, Pat Cummins.
He reckons that Australia will win 4-1.
He's trolling. He's trolling from the stands.
Is he also calling for Pat Cummins to take over as Australian captain? I'm not quite sure what that is all about. If that's Pat Cummins' signature, that doesn't really look anything like the words Pat and Cummins, as Wood is in, fourth ball of the over, simply defended back to him by Nicholls. No fuss in that defensive stroke.
Yes, it's well, I mean, he's already talking about the Ashes. We're not allowed to talk about the Ashes until September, apparently.
Okay.
But I think historically, there's a lot of this talk about, oh, you can't talk about the Ashes, you're disrespecting other teams. But I mean, it's a historical thing. I mean, it is the big derby almost. It's like the Man United v Man City or the Everton v Liverpool. So you're always looking ahead to those games.
England have always been obsessed with the Ashes, potentially to the detriment of other cricket, but we can't really ignore that reality. A little bit of an inside edge from Nicholls. He tried to, I think, shape initially to drive that through the covers, but it did come back into him a little bit, and it squirts off the inside edge down to long leg for a single. First time we've seen Mark Wood really get any movement off the straight so far today.
Jay Grover says, when only Knackle gets my insults, I should widen the net. Then again, I've met people who frantically underline passages in the Fountainhead with pride. Some of these people are in the US government.
Yeah,
I don't know. True. I don't know anything about this.
What, Ayn Rand?
No.
Oh, you do not?
No.
Very famous book, Atlas Shrugged. You don't remember that?
Yeah, she was a
never read it.
Hyper-capitalist libertarian.
Never read it. Don't get it.
Beloved of the American right.
Is it like Anarchy?
No. Much more, well, controlling, really. Conway opens out his stance as Wood comes over the wicket and bowls into the hip, which I think is, if he's going to bowl sort of back of a length, I think that's probably a better angle for him, tucking up Devon Conway, and he was tucked up by that one. Dribbles off the thigh pad, drops in front of him. There is no run. 41 overs gone. New Zealand 124 for 3.
Well, now, I've got a bit of a controversial tweet from Ravi here. I don't understand the background to it, but I will read it out. So, in Overton and Robinson, we have a duo of suspected racists.
Well, Overton had a problem. I forget the name of the batsman. It was an Essex batsman, wasn't it?
Usher Zaidi.
I don't know anything about Robinson. I haven't heard anything about any problems that he's had.
The one thing I've heard with Ollie Robinson is that he was dropped and released from his contract at Yorkshire from persistently turning up late for training by Jason Gillespie, actually, who then became his coach at Sussex. But yeah, Craig Overton told Usher Zaidi at Essex to F off back to his own country in 2014. There's a good interview, well, we'll come to that after this ball, as Robinson, tall man, comes in past Nicholls, past the umpire and Nicholls leads through to the keeper. There is no run. Taha Hashim of Wisden asked him about it in an interview this week, and Overton gave a non-apology, non-defence that was pretty disheartening to read. He's never.
I didn't see that. I must admit. I was going to add to the point, but you don't necessarily have to be defined by something you've said 7 years ago. I know he's always going to be asked about it. It's a very difficult situation. I don't know what he said. Perhaps you can tell us what he said.
Well, I'll come to that after this ball from Robinson to Nicholls with the sun cream plastered across the lower part of his face. A short ball from Robinson, which does get up. Nicholls leads through to the keeper. There is no run. So this was in a game between Somerset and Essex, and he told Usher Zaidi to F off back to his own country. This was attested by.
No, I know that. I know what he said originally. I'm just saying what he said in the interview
I see.
He had this week.
What he said in that was, and this I believe is the first time he's been directly asked about it in the press, rather than people just writing about it without asking him. And what he said was that I didn't say that. I'm not that type of person.
That's it's not a non-committal. That's fairly emphatic if that's what he believes.
Robinson comes
I'm not
in.
saying he's right at all.
Robinson comes in and Nicholls leaves through to the keeper. There is no run, and he went on to say, "We've had Uzzer Elliott this county, and I'm the first to go up and talk to him," which is the I have a brown friend defence, which I don't think particularly helped. But he didn't. I think he didn't. He neither defended it nor showed any sign of having any sort of contrition for it. So it was a slightly odd.
Well, he was denying saying it. Effectively, that's what he said.
As Robinson is in, and this is again left alone by Nicholls through to the keeper. There is no run. He was banned for it at the time, or well, sort of. It was reported by both of the umpires at the time, the standing umpires in that game, to an ECB disciplinary panel. He was banned for one game for swearing, essentially, there was no consideration given to the racial component of what he said, and the ban he got was for an accumulation of minor offences. So he wasn't dealt with as the ECB's regulations for racist abuse state that he should have been. There doesn't seem to have been a lot of growth and learning in the intervening 7 years. That's all the last thing I really want to say on that matter, as this is left alone again by Nicholls. Robinson probing outside off stump, that a little bit too wide, but he blithely he didn't so much deny saying it as he denied being the sort of person who would say it, which is not quite the same thing.
Well, that's pretty much the same thing. I think that's a pretty strong denial as far as I'm concerned. I'm not saying that he's telling the truth necessarily, but that sounds to me like a pretty strong denial.
Last ball of the over from Robinson. Tries to make Nicholls play, but it gets it too far down the leg side. Good sprawling stop from James Bracey. Gets a hand on it, and again, we were talking about harsh byes. That will go down as a bye, but actually, Bracey has saved 3 there with that plunge down the leg side. That is the only run off the over. New Zealand 125 for 3.
It is
Leia says, well, at least in one area Joe is as good as Virat. They both throw away reviews like true champions. Are you gatekeeping signatures, Knackle? Also, shut the fuck up about the Ashes. He also says, Nessa's your Trump supporting mate was a big Rand fan. I don't know if John would have read something so sophisticated, Jay, to be honest.
I don't know if it's that sophisticated, but it is
Ravi
long.
sent an example, a tweet of Robinson doing his sort of racist stuff.
Yeah, it's a tweet from 2012, 9 years ago. I mean, I was kind of told off within our own organisation for arguing about Matt Parkinson and various things he'd said about Virat Kohli that weren't racist but were quite offensive, which had been written in about 2011.
Yeah, he tweeted something as a teenager, right?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? You hope people learn from what they do.
Having read the article in Wisden, I think there's been very little learning happening. It was in 2015 that he was banned, and I have the full quotes. But we have on-field news at Lords, because we have a change of bowling. Replacing Mark Wood is the England captain Joe Root, who starts with his right arm slow stuff and is clipped by Nicholls to short mid-wicket. There is no run off the bowling of England captain Joe Root.
His voice is high-pitched and ginger hair like a picked, but massive runs he has hit, so there's that. Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root, actually.
Slipping a leg slip in place. This is tossed up, and Nicholls drives, doesn't time it, and it's fielded at cover. There is no run. Joe Root.
So he's trying to
superb in that. Bowled very well in that series in India, actually. Bowling out the 2 left-handers. This one comes on with the arm, and Nicholls drops it into the onside and takes a single.
Glenn Smith is stuck in lockdown in Australia, and he's glad to be listening to us again. Well, we're glad to have you on board, Glenn. Hope it's not too difficult for you out there.
Yeah, Root's trying to turn the ball. If he's trying to turn it at all, he's trying to turn it up the hill.
Plus you're challenging both edges. Down the slope brings in the inside edge and the LBW. that's why you've got the slip and the leg slip in place. This is very straight, and Conway turns it around the corner. Leg slip has to chase into the onside to do the fielding.
Leia, who knows about things, says Rand's subjectivism boils down to a very verbose justification for acting like a giant narcissistic knob. Her fiction is also absolute shite that makes Jerry Pournelle look like a potential Nobel Prize winner.
Higher arm this time from root outside off stump, a little bit of overspin, and Nicholls blocks into the onside. There is no run. He had success on those turning pitches that we got towards the end of the series, bowling quite flat and quite quick. Fair to say this Lord's pitch will not give him as much assistance as those. More overspin again this time, gets a little bit of loop on it, and Nicholls blocks back to the bowler. A tidy over from Joe Root to start 2 runs off it. New Zealand 127 for 3. We'll have one more over before we have a change of personnel.
There's a bit more on this Robinson, Overton stuff, which I think we've covered, so we'll leave it there, folks, I think.
The final thing I want to say, I've got the actual quote up in front of me that Overton said to the Wisden journalist. He said, "I don't believe I said it. I don't believe I'm that sort of character."
Well, it's a tricky one, but I disagree. I disagree that he's not denying it. That sounds to me like a denial. I don't believe I said it. I don't think I said it. If that's not a denial,
maybe I should have said it wasn't.
What is it?
Maybe I should have said it wasn't. Maybe I should have said
a statement
it wasn't a convincing.
saying that I didn't say something that you claimed I've said, and if he said it, he's a bad man.
Or he should have said, "I'm really sorry about that. What a dick thing to say, and I really apologise."
Ideally, yes. That would have been yes. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it wasn't a convincing defence, and not one that will make anyone think any better of him. I don't think
it doesn't make him. Mark Wood is switching ends, by the way.
He is indeed. Longer spells for Mark Wood than we or he are used to in Test cricket. I'll jingle him up after this next delivery as he steams into Devon Conway. This one keeps a little bit low, and Bracey misfield, the first genuine misfield that I think you could say Bracey has made, and they'll come through for the bye off the bowling of this man.
Do you know Mark Wood? Yes, he is an England bowler, quite good and pretty quick. So just a normal guy. Of course. Except for just one thing. What? He thinks that he's a horse. Right. What?
Maybe Root would just brought himself on to change end.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. We may. Who would we likely to see? Perhaps a bit of Jimmy again.
Broad
bowled quite a long spell, didn't he?
As Wood is in short delivery, left alone by Nicholls, who ducks under it through to the keeper. There is no run. The reason I'm saying Broad is because he has that incredible record to left-handers in the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, but there isn't the swing that there has been at times. I mean, it's a pretty bright day, even though there's been a bit more cloud cover this afternoon. Still fairly bright. I'd say that actually, when he's got movement today, it's been more movement off the pitch than swing as such. And that's true of Robinson, I think, as well. That ball that darted back to Ross Taylor.
Similar height,
straight off the pitch.
Similar height bowlers, aren't they? They both sort of hit a length and get the ball to move off a seam. Although Broad did get a little bit of swing after lunch, more so than he did before lunch, outside off stump, and again dives through to the keeper. There is no run, untidily taken or stopped by James Bracey, who has been keeping for Gloucestershire for a season and a half or a couple of seasons. Keeps and bats in the top 3 and averages 50 in the last couple of years, which is part of the reason why he's I think he may well have debuted this week in the top 3 if Ben Folkes hadn't unwisely worn socks on a polished floor and slipped and done his hamstring while slipping, which is a hell of a slip.
That's England. They've just got to stop doing anything really, because they injure themselves in all sorts of bizarre ways.
In Hurtle's Wood, tight to off stump, better delivery. Nicholls blocks into the onside, and there is no run.
Can't they put down those useless rubber mats that you get in dodgy hotel showers? They're probably more dangerous than anything.
Yeah.
And then you get verrucas from.
I just presumed. I mean, I'm trying to remember how Crawley injured himself back in India.
Spikes on a marble floor.
Studs on a slightly shiny floor.
Yeah, spikes on a marble floor.
No, that's
not good.
stupid.
Not good.
Are verrucas still a thing, by the way?
Well, I haven't got any.
I haven't heard about verrucas for years.
I haven't been swimming in quite a long time.
Bring them back.
Full delivery, and Nicholls drives again. It's sort of a drive, but it's really just a net shot, and it goes up to mid-off, and there is no run. You know what I mean? He doesn't really commit to the drive in any way. It's just a sort of gentle push.
Hello?
we'll have a change at the end of the over. 3-person change, in fact. Forthy's going to come back on and do some summarising. Fred's going to read some social media messages, and the Bear will take you through to tea on Ball by Ball. Glorious day in northwest London and indeed in southeast London here, where the studio is sun peeping through the clouds as this is back of a length from Wood, and he blocks does Evan Conway into the onside, and there is no run. New Zealand, having won the toss and elected to bat on this first day of this first of 2 test matches, are 128 for 3 on after 44 overs. Henry Nicholls is 6 not out, Devon Conway is 59 not out, and after a few words from Fred and Forthy, the next voice you hear on Ball by Ball will be Bear.
Well, Forthy, I don't know what you've done to annoy the people at in the hierarchy at Guerrilla Cricket, but you seem to be on with me all day, so you must have done something to annoy them.
It's an honour and a pleasure and a privilege.
And the Bear has settled his svelte backside into the
it's very svelte these days.
director's chair, and will be taking you through the ball by ball.
And opening his first can of the beer of this cricketing summer. Nice. Rooty is going to come around the wicket. It's 2 leg side. He's just worked round a corner by Conway. He'll move himself onto 60. Now, doing all right. How many overs do we think? I've got it right in front of me. And that's the last 10 overs. I want a scorecard.
What do you want to know, Bear?
Well, I think we've done all right, haven't we? In terms of over, that's 46 overs. I thought it was more than the 50s. That's defended out in the offside and there's no run. They haven't really got away, have they, New Zealand? It's not easy to get wickets. I think England have bowled quite well.
I think they have.
Had a very good afternoon.
Yeah.
Root bowls flatter and more round arm. It's Nicholls takes a little chassé down the track and bunts it up to mid-on where Jimmy's fielding, looking grumpy as per normal, really. And they get through for a single.
They have. I don't think they bowled badly before lunch. But
no, I don't think they bowled
particularly well after lunch.
Yeah, I don't think they bowled badly at all day. I just don't think it doesn't look easy to bowl on. Looks good for batting. Played square by Conway. And don't go through for a single this time.
You do wonder if having so many quality bowlers makes them try harder, frankly.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, they all want to play for England. Driven nicely by Conway out into the deep. Woody's out there covering the cover boundary, and they'll get through just a single. I mean, there is a lot of competition for England bowling spots. Anderson and Broad won't go on forever, but I just don't get this whole. If they're fit, they've got to play, surely, unless they get totally out of form. That's clipped into the leg side by Nicholls, and he'll get himself a single just wide of mid wicket. I mean, I just think you got 2 bowlers who are, still taking shitloads of wickets. They've got all that experience in the bag. I mean, experience counts for a lot. You don't have to be the quickest bowler in the world if you've got experience, all sorts of conditions, and That adds nous to your game, and you can only get that by playing. And people have got to be blooded, but there's going to be plenty of time over the summer to blood people. Archer we got in the bag, we reckon, but he could be injured. And if Broad and Anderson don't play every game, there's still three bowling spots. If one of them plays.
That's true, but you would think if you looked at 6 tests over, you'd think New Zealand would be an easier place to ease your way into a side, relatively speaking, despite the fact they're in the World Series final than India, which could be very tough.
They're the top seeds. I mean, they won the World Test Championship, admittedly truncated World Test Championship because of the format and especially because of the pandemic. But they finished top of the table.
Wood is in and left alone by Nicholls outside his off stump through the keeper and there's no one. Yeah, but I don't think you see that kind of thinking kind of annoys me. It's just like when you play the player when you need to play the player.
You just pick your best team.
Exactly. You just pick the best team, and if you've got spots available, you pick the best of what's available. What you think is the best of what's available. That has to be Ollie Robinson here and Stone. I mean, you were saying pretty much what I was saying, Fred, about Woody. I
made this point off air about Wokes. Wokes has played 3 competitive games since last September. They were 3 T20 internationals. He's bowled a total of 11 overs and he's had 1 innings of 11 balls since September 2020.
Look, Woody's fallen over. I think that's the first time I've seen him fall over today. This is around the wicket. It's just played into the mid-wicket area and there is no run.
And Wokes is being rested for this game.
Yeah, well,
he's having a rest, having bowled 11 overs of competitive cricket since last September, 8.5 months ago.
I think that's because he's having family time, isn't it?
Well, I'm sorry, he came back 3.5 weeks ago from India.
Yeah, he had to quarantine for 2.
And then you've had a couple of weeks since. He's probably getting sick of his family.
Well, I mean, that's what I was thinking the other night. I mean, this whole thing, I want to spend loads of time with my family. It's probably after a few days, I'm quite happy to go back out on the road again.
Christmas,
You know what I mean? It's left alone outside the off stump and there's no run. But he did have to quarantine for 2 weeks, though, didn't he?
He's not being rested. He's either been dropped or he's not fit. I mean, if you say with a straight face that you're resting somebody who hasn't played any significant cricket for 8 months, then that's just a laughable contention, in my view. And Chris Woakes has probably got the best record of any bowler at Lords over the last few years. Admittedly, one of those tests was Ireland, where he cleaned up a whole bunch of wickets for not very many, and they don't count for much. Sorry, Ireland fans, but they don't. But it's just ludicrous to suggest that he's being rested.
I kind of agree. Wood is bowling pretty straight to Nicholls. Good length ball. He just defends it back down the track, and there's no run.
I guess whether you agree with it or not, and I can tell you don't. Their stated philosophy is we're building to the Ashes, and I think I'm just putting their point of view, and I think Woakes' average in Australia is something like 60, so they've probably already marked him down for that.
Well, then he's been dropped. Tell us he's been dropped.
Yes, well, that's a very fair point.
I also think about overseas tours. I think in the modern era, I know you've got to pay anybody, but if these people are on central contracts, as that's just played out to short leg, you set a little bit deep for Nicholls to Wood. You take out, normally you have a squad of 16, 15, something like that. You've only got 3 spare players. If I was England going out to the Ashes this time round, I'd have another 3 or 4 bowlers tagged on.
Well, yeah, but nowadays they tend to have sort of shadow squads out there. They have England A squads. They have people sort of on standby. They're not short of money. They've got about 30 support staff. They can take 3 extra players if they want to. Yes, they're not going to play much cricket, but they're going to play more cricket than they would do in November or December in England.
Absolutely. Well, they might get a PSL contract or something. That's clipped to the leg side. And there's no run as it goes straight to mid wicket. Nice.
I think I can remember when Peter Willey wasn't chosen for a winter tour, that he became groundsman at Nottingham Forest, and they had a nice little feature on Midlands Today, which was what I used to watch when I was young, and they interviewed poor Peter Willey, who was trundling around the city ground at Nottingham on a lawnmower.
Well, county players in the 70s and earlier were only employed during the cricket season. They had to fend for themselves in the off season. A couple of Surrey cricketers who sold Christmas trees, I seem to recall one year. Nadeem Shahid, possibly. Anyway, Kieran gets in touch, says, listening to you guys from India, you guys are entertaining. Are you going to do the India games in August, September?
Of course we bloody are.
Stay here, don't go anywhere else.
We did the last series too, We were all getting up at silly o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning over here.
We've been doing every series since 2014 in this incarnation. Exactly. Literally every series involving England, and many, many series involving other teams as well. So do stay here, because we enjoy having you.
Absolutely. And we like your comments too.
The Indian series was great for me. It was 3 PM.
Well, there you go. It wasn't for us. Root defended back down the track, and there's no run. And this is why the Ashes is such a. I love it, but when it's away, the whole fucking through the night thing just absolutely kills me.
Well, actually, if you're English, it's been perfect because it starts.
Played up to mid-on, driven, nice by.
Starts at 8 in the evening. And you can guarantee getting the first 2 sessions at least, and you're not working. So.
No, but they start at 10, 11, 12 here, those games.
Defended into the leg side and there's no run. Yeah, the Ashes starts, if it's in Adelaide, this is the annoying thing as well. They do the day-night games at Adelaide, and Adelaide usually starts the earliest. It's like 11 o'clock. But when it's at Adelaide day-night, it starts at 1:30 in the morning. It's like, it's a really shit time to start. Do you get any sleep before it? Probably not. Propped forward, Conway, as the route just continues around the wicket. And
it's about time they did something about this time differences. Sort it out, world. Put us all on the same time zone, and then everything will be fine.
Another thing.
I don't know how that'll work, Fred. Yeah, Rooty around the wicket to Conway holds that up a little bit, throws it out a little bit wider, gives it a bit more air, and he just knocks it out to cover where there is no run. 132 for 3 New Zealand. Nicholls is on 8. Conway 61.
Has there been any discernible improvement in Joe Root's bowling? I'm not sure I can spot it really.
Ooh, wow, I think that was the stand-up seamer. As he hurled that down, it seemed to drift in, maybe a bit of swing, but it was just knocked onto the leg side by Nicholls. Conway, who knocks it out square on the leg side, past the infield, out to the man in the deep, and he'll get through for a single and retain the strike.
Jay Grover gets in touch. He says, good Lord, I didn't realise that woke stat. I'm assuming he means that he hasn't actually played anything for a long time. And he offers some choice comment on that. And he says, not Fred and the Laughable Contentions. It's a good name for a band. It's not bad, actually. And he also clarifies it was Nadeem Shahid and Ed Giddins who sold Christmas trees. I'd forgotten that it was Ed Giddins. I tried to think about Ed Giddins as little as possible.
It's a test player, Ed Giddins.
Yeah, he's an international class twat as well. But let's let's keep our personal differences off air.
He came in at the end of the Test match sofa era with his girlfriend.
He did. He was very drunk.
Yeah, he was extraordinarily drunk.
Oh, was he? All right, no good.
Yeah, we had Hoggard. He was extraordinarily drunk as well. It's after a players thing, wasn't it?
Do you remember, Bear, were you there when we did that charity thing in the city and Hoggard was playing? We were doing live commentary. I don't think you were there. I was there with Hendo and possibly Grubby. And I was commentating on him live at the ground when he was running in. I said, Matthew Hoggard, who played first-class cricket for 17 years and now plays for Leicestershire. And he stopped in the middle of his run-up and he turned around and gave me the finger, which was fun.
Driven at by Conway. And it's nicely driven past cover to the wide mid-off, who's Ollie Robinson. They'll get a single.
I've heard more offensive statements. What did he
say? It was good-natured. No, I was trying to imply that Leicestershire were not a first-class county.
Okay.
They were in the middle of an era where I think they went sort of 3 years without winning a county championship.
Was that thing?
And he was their skipper.
Was that thing that used to be up at the artillery ground?
Yes, it was.
Did we do that 2
charity
years?
event for the Sick Children's Trust.
I was there 1 year, but I think we did it 2 years, didn't we? And I wasn't.
We did 2 or 3 years, yeah.
I was only there once.
And I was told off for saying when the Sick Children's Trust team were batting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have a change of bowling actually. Broad is into the attack and he's rolling around the wicket. Sorry, I didn't pick that up first ball, but it's left alone outside Nicholls is off stump through to
and the sick children's team lost a wicket and I said, the sick children continue to suffer, and I got some immediate feedback from that.
Some flack. I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
now, would you say there's an argument that Henry Nicholls is the most underrated and anonymously good batsman in the world? I think he's number 6 Test batsman in the world.
Is he?
Yeah, I think his average is 44.
I mean, he's always done reasonably well against us, I think, if I seem to remember rightly. That's played square by Nicholls out to point, and there is no run.
Well, I did a little bit of research on him. Since 2017, he's one of 5 batsmen averaging over 50 in Test cricket, and the others are Williams, Smith, Labuschagne, and Kohli. I bet even our Cognoscenti would struggle to have put Henry Nicholls as the 5th in that list.
Well, yeah.
It's a top stat.
That is
top statting there, Forthy.
But then...
No, thank you very much.
Someone would say that New Zealand don't really play a lot of tests compared to these other people.
You still have to score the runs.
You still have to score the runs, true. But
There is one unfortunate stat I'll come on to.
Full, wide, outside off stump, driven hard. It's quite a floaty delivery. But unfortunately for Nicholls, he's hit straight to...
He's played 13 innings against India and Australia, and he averages 16.5, so there's the problem argument.
But that's the thing about averages, they average out.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
So what's his average against England? Because this is going to depress me.
I don't know.
Oh, well, that's no good for
find out for you. What I can say is, though, he's got he's played 0 Test matches against a Duke's ball. That's interesting.
Well, yeah.
What do they use in New Zealand?
Kookaburra, I think.
Ball?
I think it's Kookaburra. Short and ducked underneath by Nicholls through the keeper, and there's no run. Didn't really get up from Brody. On a 48th over, they've still got 32 overs to a new ball.
We got a bunch of comments on YouTube that I'll come to at the end of the over.
Okie dokie, you do that. Broad is at the end of his run-up. And the crowd is spread out. Where, is that the new stand, Fred?
No, that's the Warner stand, which is only about 2 years old.
Okay. Left alone outside the off stump, and there is no run once more as Nicholls leaves that alone. I don't recognise that roof, that's all.
No, that's it's a relative. That's actually a lovely stand, the Warner stand now. It used to be a bit cold and blowy up there, but it's lovely. Khan Tanvir sends us a heart with a plus sign in it on YouTube. Yuri Zakarchuk asks, who win? Well, it's a good question, but come back in a few days, we'll be able to let you know.
Absolutely.
Balchandra Deshpande says, Anderson is not boiling. Why? He's probably keeping cool. He can't bowl all the time. Code Web says, I'm seeing Bear after a year. He looks trimmed. Wow, longevity rare. And he also says, Bear, your prediction for Euro 2020? Oh, God, let's wait until that starts.
England, obviously.
Yeah, you're going to have a bet on. Jay Grover says, Hoggard were decently, respectably drunk. Giddins were obnoxiously effed. Never met the man, but my vote goes to twat.
Okay. Driven, given a bit of air by Ruti, and nicely driven by Conway. Inside mid-on, he's a little bit wide, and it scoots up the ground. All the way to the boundary for the first time that's played jingle for quite a while.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
A little bit of air, no turn whatsoever, and that's just nicely timed. Sweet drive up the ground.
And Jay Grover adds, I am aware of the hypocrisy.
That's okay, Jay, we know that about you. Round arm, slingy, flatter, and this time Conway just defends it out to the covers, and there is no run.
It's a nice little, it's vaguely reminiscent of when you got a little bit of Viv Richards either side of tea after a battery of fast West Indian bowlers.
Root gets turned around the corner full, but on legs, and Conway was just able to clip it around the corner, gets himself a single.
And let me say very quickly, only vaguely reminiscent. I'm not putting the England battery in quite the same bracket.
But they're quite easy to tell apart. Actually, their bowl. It's a good question. Who would you rate as a better bowler between Viv Richards and Joe Root? They're probably similar. I mean, Viv Richards picked up a lot of wickets because people were happy to play against him.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right.
He bowled left-handed, didn't he, Viv?
No.
No. I'm getting that completely wrong. I always remember him as a left arm rounder. That's clipped.
It's not driven. It's just an off spinner, I think, wasn't he? Joe Root's bowling average in tests is 43.3, which is nothing to write home about.
No, it isn't. But he got a 5 for.
He did get 5 for 8. Yeah.
Yeah, in about three overs.
Yeah. A horribly flat back drive by Conway. Gets an under edge.
I wonder,
bounces out.
Maybe
Michael for
Michael Clark's a closer parallel to Joe Root. He got a 5 for once against India at the end of the test.
I don't think Root bowls as a joke. I think he's a genuine option to bowl. Bowl a few overs to spell the fast bowlers, to give people a break, and to be
driven by
some threat.
Nicholls.
Yeah, agreed.
To the cover boundary for a single. I agree. I mean, especially in these. This is why I didn't think Leach would ever get picked. I mean, we've had a wettest bloody May since God knows when. And okay, the sun's perked out now, but it's not going to be a Bunsen burner. It's never going to turn into a Bunsen burner. One wouldn't think at Lords.
And on turning wickets, Root does turn the ball appreciably.
Absolutely, and he bowls quick. He bowls reasonably quickly through the air as well. So
yeah, he's not a frontline spinner in that he will bowl bad balls. He'll bowl full tosses. But then again, Don Bess is a frontline bowler, and he bowls full tosses.
I haven't been keeping an eye on how Don Bess has started the season. I don't know whether
he's not got a lot of cricket. With the conditions and the time of year. Jay Grover says, not Fred, for a man who barely drinks, you do seem to end up with a bunch of battered people on air. Some of who are beloved guerrilla cricket tweeters. I'm thinking of you, Ravi.
Yeah, we all remember that day. Don't you forget that, Ravi. Broad is going to continue. He's presumably bowling around the wicket and outside of Nicholls' off stump. He's happy to leave it. He's only scored 10 of 42 deliveries, 43 now, and there is no run. He's quite happy to be patient and leave it alone. Can't imagine England will be that unhappy about that, but they could do with another wicket or two. Another wicket before tea would be nice. We've only got 8 minutes left.
That'd be good.
And then a slippery one afterwards.
I seem to recall Messi Jez saying, apropos of nothing, that 170 for 3 at tea before the game started. So if there's a GPL for tea, he might be close.
Well, Yeah, there isn't no. Left alone outside the off stump by Nicholls, and then no run. I mean, there were some entries into GPL. Messi Jez was at one of them. Well, maybe he was right at the end. Nope, we had 9 entries ranging from 231 all the way up to 308.
I see the MCC are doing roaring trade in selling MCC coloured masks. Never miss the opportunity to cash in on a crisis.
Well, no.
I had a guided tour of Lords once, and I asked Elspeth, who was taking the tour, why the ham and eggs, and she actually had the answer to it after this ball.
Left alone outside the off stump, and there's no run. And do tell, why the ham and eggs?
Well, evidently, it might have been Thomas Lord, or I think it was one of Thomas Lord's colleagues, had a bottling business, and I think he bottled gin, and the brand colours were ham and eggs, and in order to give a little boost, I think it was, from one to the other, he adopted them as the MCC colours.
Well, there you go. And it's been quite successful.
Fascinating.
Well, we can't remember the gin, but what the hell? You know, the colours are amazing.
Yes.
Short, and Nicholls looked a little bit discomforted, but stood up proud at the end and just knocked it down in front of him, and there's no run.
Have to say, my children were rolling their eyes at this stage of the tour. Can we go now? Stop asking questions.
Well, you saw the Ashes and the Wisden Trophy and the pigeon killed by Jahangir Khan in the museum.
Yes, we saw the long room. We did. We saw the whole thing.
Was the media centre built when you did the tour? Because they go up there.
Yes. 2013 we did it. Actually.
And the rickety lifts, that's defended. Back up the track, and there is no run.
I like sitting in the media centre because it's the only place in the ground where you can't see the media centre.
Yeah, it's a nice. I give it
very
that.
good.
It's a nice
That was why Victor Hugo chose to have a flat in the Eiffel Tower.
Well, somebody used to go up the Eiffel Tower every day for lunch because he didn't like the view of the Eiffel Tower.
Yes,
so.
that's correct.
It's slightly less obtrusive now because they've built similarly shaped stands either side of it. But no, I never was a fan.
It's a strange thing, isn't it? Though?
Beats the outside edge of Nicholls' bat as he probs forward. And they just can't. Beating the outside edge a fair few times today, England, and that one does, but nothing on it. And the game rumbles on. 142 for 3 after 50 overs.
Yes, cricket's always so conservative, or considered to be so conservative, and yet it's always changing and evolving in a way that other sports don't. And so the architecture at Lords, you would have thought that was absolutely sacrosanct, but no.
No, it never has been. They've always been quite adventurous in their advertising choices. You know, the Mound stand with its tented roof, and the Warner stand, and they do like to make a statement. You were talking earlier about injuries and freak injuries. I remember a couple of years ago seeing an article about baseball and freak injuries, because there's a lot of players and they do get injured in stupid ways. The best one I saw was the guy who got injured ironing when he was ironing his shirt, which was on him at the time.
Well, that's really fucking stupid, eh?
If you ever want to cheer yourself up, go on YouTube and look up extreme ironing.
Yeah, really?
I'd rather not.
Oh yes. People will parachute attached to an ironing board, get out a shirt and iron it mid-air.
Idiots. Now there's a attempted big sweep from Conway. I mean, it was going down leg side, so it was quite a safe shot. There was kind of hands in the air from England. It did bobble up in the air, and it might have been something on it, but I don't think so. Bracey certainly wasn't running around to get it. Ooh, it kind of went inside the hands. There wasn't anything touching it. Straight arm driven nicely. Can't beat Broad, who's wide at mid-off, and there's no run. And now what I was going to say is, where's Fred gone? He's just disappeared.
He's disappeared. He's fallen off.
He's fallen off.
Disgusted at the ironing tour.
You talk about egg and bacon masks and the fact that they're promoting themselves with that. A big appeal for LBW, and I think it was sliding down leg again. There's no straightening from around the wicket. He bowls pretty wide of the crease, which is pretty natural when you're coming from that wide, bowling around the wicket, sorry. It's hit him outside leg, and it's probably going down leg. But you can get Gorilla Cricket masks from our Red Bowl store if you really want branded masks. All our designs are on masks, I think, pretty much. Nicholls defends the next ball back down the track, and there is no run. I don't know what's happened to Fred.
Presumably with the gorilla on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that and our t-shirt designs, you can find them all on the masks. Clipped by Nicholls, last ball of the over goes up to mid-on, and there's no run. 143 for 3, when you should have, what, an over or two? What happened there, Fred?
Sorry, had to just nip off for a brief second.
Oh, okay.
Apologies.
I was saying, Fred, we do masks that have gorilla designs on. It's not just the MCC, you know.
Oh, do we? Oh, we'll go and buy those. Don't buy the MCC ones. You probably can't buy them unless you're an MCC member anyway. So,
Absolutely.
Buy us. We're not nearly as exclusive. Trey Grover says, I'd like to see the GPL ending in 3-3-3. I think Messi Jez's brain would divide by 0.
Well, he's not in it. 3-3-3 isn't an option. Well, it is an option, but no one's picked it.
And he wants to hear the history of the red and yellow colours again, but it's basically a branded gin's colours, that's all. Nothing really exciting.
Yes. It's not that exciting.
Mother's ruin back in those days, I imagine. Conway
so.
is facing up broad, is around the wicket, and jabs that out towards cover, and there's no run. He's batted all right, his lad Conway, and he's a sapper, but you know, now plays for New Zealand, I suppose.
It's going to be him and Ganguly in the last 100 years at this rate, as debut Test centuries at Lords.
Well, it's a long way from 70 to 100.
For the opposition.
Brian Barish says the ironing incident happened to future Hall of Famer John Smoltz of the Atlanta Brave, and according to Smoltz himself, I didn't steam it while it was on. I set the steamer down, and when I set it down, water popped out and caught me on the chest. He wasn't actually ironing his shirt. So.
Okay, fair enough. Well, maybe that's the excuse he made anyway. That's defended back down the track, and there's no run. Were there any witnesses?
Well, yes.
To be fair, actually, something very similar happened to me once when I was holding a small child, and I opened the mixer with some hot soup in and it exploded all over me, and I had to decide whether to save myself or the child because I was in such.
Well, you're
pain.
still here, so. I'm looking at obscure injuries. I see somebody who left an ice pack on his leg too long and got frostbite. That's quite a good one. Oh yes, this was Glenn Allen Hill from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Broad, in, short, over the wicket to Conway, who pulls it out towards deep mid-wicket, in front of the square. Doesn't time it particularly well, but he'll get himself a single. And we still
he had a phobia of spiders, and he thought he saw some spiders and jumped up and smashed a broken glass table and injured himself very badly.
I think not cricket, but Dave Besant, the England goalkeeper, missed out on an important tournament, possibly even the World Cup, because a jar of mayonnaise fell on his foot.
Yeah.
I
don't know, if it was light mayonnaise, he might have got away with it.
And there was obviously Shane Watson, who was scared of ghosts in Durham.
Oh yes. I've stayed in.
He didn't go through a plate glass table.
Yeah. Are we still employing bloody Jeetan Patel? Left alone outside the off stump by Nicholls, and there's
he's Joe Root's personal spin coach.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
There's no shortage of support staff for the England team.
No.
Jobs for the boys.
Certainly is, isn't it?
Well, Forsyth says, salutations, Lords, the crowd and Stuart Broad all look resplendent today.
Yeah. It is nice to see crowds back in. And there's going to be 18,000 at Edgbaston, so it's going to be, what, 70%?
Yes, 18,000 at Edgbaston, apparently.
Left alone outside the off stump by Nicholls, through to the keeper, and there's no one. How long have you been out in Australia, Forthy?
Since 2005.
Wow, quite a while, isn't it?
Yeah, I left during the second test of the 2005 summer and arrived during the third test. Well,
and I've been there ever since.
Go by Zeppelin.
Yeah. Yes. It was a rather sad time to arrive in some ways. I'd waited so long for England to win at home, and then I left the minute that they actually were about to.
Well,
last ball before tea.
Is it? So it is. It's 3:42. It is indeed. Broad will bowl it. He's going to be bowling to Henry Nicholls. It's taken 53 balls to score 10 runs. It's a bit sedate, but that's Test cricket for you. Here comes Broad, and he just defends it. He defends with his back quite away from his body, but he does defend it. And that goes back down the track and there's no run. So after lunch we have taken the wickets of Kane Williams, who was bowled at Anderson shortly after lunch, playing with very, very, very soft hands. In fact, too soft, because the ball came back off his bat with a little bit of backspin and went into his stumps, and he was out for 13. Ross Taylor came in, and it was LBW to Robinson for 14. Henry Nicholls remains 10 not out. Devon Conway is still not out as the opening batsman on 71, having faced 131 balls.
That was a session for the connoisseurs.
Yeah, it was quite a slow session. I mean, it's taken them 2 sessions to get to 144. But they've only lost 3 wickets, and there's plenty of time to kick on. Maybe a little bit slow. I mean, England will get a chance with a second new ball before they're too far ahead. I suppose, who's next? BJ Watling's not a massively quick scorer. Colin de Grandhomme and Santner can kick it on. But yeah,
I don't think they need to worry about speed yet. I mean, we're in the first day of a 5-day test.
Absolutely.
Very true. I'm really looking forward to seeing Colin de Grandhomme's mullet, in all honesty.
Yeah, in the picture at the beginning, it looked fantastic, didn't it?
It really did.
Righty-ho, what are we doing during the tea break?
As it's England versus New Zealand, obviously we're going back to the World Cup final, because that's the easy thing to do, and it happens to go on for hours and hours and hours, so we can play up the entirety of the test, Fred. Isn't that good?
Okie doke.
And
Let's do it, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes.
Okie dokie. See you shortly.
I think that's me knocking off, so have a great evening session. I'll probably see you tomorrow.
Okie doke.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot. See you later.
Cheers. Thank
Enjoy.
you.
And here, I think we're seeing Joe Root just settling into his innings. He thinks, if I bat normally, don't have to do anything stupid, I can do something great.
It did happen against Sri Lanka, though. They got into a bit of a rut. Root is forward to this one, probing around his off stump, but he defends into the extra cover area, and there is no run.
Jay Grabber, hated Fido Dido, almost as much as I hate Grubby's Shoreditch Twat belt.
Oh, right. Is that?
Do you have a belt on?
I do have a belt on. Yeah.
Oh, I see that.
Well, you see this?
It's very colourful.
That is a very. I don't know.
Is that hipsterish?
I don't know.
I'm not sold on that belt.
Someone bought it for me.
Sold on it. Someone
I'm not trying to sell it to you.
Someone managed to sell it. This is a bit of a leading edge from Root as he comes forward to this. He's going to get his first run, though, as it skews away through extra cover. And England move to 34 for 1.
Do you know what troubles me most about that? Is that Jay Grover is watching me.
Yeah, I mean, that is very
It's
worrying.
covered pretty well as well, I'd say. And the fact he's been dreaming here and there as well. Maybe you'll pop in this time around.
I think this Facebook Live thing's, reached a point of no return. I think maybe we should just go back to being anonymous.
I'll be in your dreams tonight, Jay, whether you like it or not, with my belt.
Oh, God. Henry into Bairstow, who's beaten by that one. Lovely delivery that went away late in the air. He aimed a drive at it, but unfortunately for New Zealand, they couldn't quite find the edge. This is marvellous bowling. Look how late that has gone. Absolutely beautiful.
Really extravagant movement, isn't it? We've seen quite a few today where the ball's gone past the edge and you think that must be out because it's moved so much after it's gone past the bat. But it's that sort of day at Lord's. It's muggy, it's overcast, it is a swing bowler's dream. Jimmy Anderson will be in the crowd somewhere thinking, God, lads, I wish I hadn't given up.
Well, he did say this morning, I heard him on the radio saying, it's a bowl first game, but it's a bowl all day game as far as I can see. Outside of the off stump, left by Bairstow. That's the end of Henry's 4th over. He has figures of 1 for 13 after 8 overs in reply to New Zealand's 241 for 8. England are 34 for 1.
From Facebook Live, hi Vijesh, hi Ranjit, thanks for joining us on Facebook Live.
Hello, Vijesh, hello, Ranjit.
Arthur Shire, of course, Spiders play international cricket. Alan Spider Mullally remains the best left-arm quick bowler fielded in my lifetime.
Isn't he some sort of Brexit-loving UKIP sort of fella these days?
I don't know, but I know I know he stayed for a week at Ian Pearce's house.
He's got a lot of L's in his name. I'll give him that.
Yeah,
he's got 4 in his surname.
A lot of L's, not so many limbs. Anyway, 34 for 1. There are people on the top of the grandstand. What are they doing up there?
It's like the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
It is.
Just watching it
going on. Maybe they think a ball's going to go up there eventually.
Exactly. That'd be a good job to have. Just watch the cricket.
Pretty high up there, isn't it? It's a pretty good view. Yeah, I think those.
As long as you've got provisions.
Those tickets are about 230 quid.
What about the toilets though? Oh no.
Let's not think about that.
Oh no.
Bolt continuing into his 5th over. Bowls to Root drives, nice shot, finds the gap, didn't really overplay it. Certainly going to get 1. Williamson does brilliantly to get round and prevent anything more than that, because that could have run away from him. Good fielding by the New Zealand captain. So Root moves to 2, England to 35 for 1.
Evil Scooters. What? Not going to argue with the umpires about being given out, referencing Roy, of course. Why do you think all these people came to see you play?
Yeah, exactly. We want controversy.
Yeah, as Stuart Lee is fond of saying in his sets, he said, "You've paid to see me, and I am me. So if there's a problem, it's not on this side of the stage."
Yeah, good point. Bolt into Bairstow, right across him, and that one did seem to gather pace off the pitch and fly a little bit through to Latham. It was a ball that wasn't aimed at coming back, it was the one that kept going. What was that?
Bounce. I thought it was going to be ditching, bounce, but it wasn't. It was
sounded like Mog.
Yeah, I think that was a kind of a Napalm Death version.
Yeah, I think so. Bolt again then, in from the pavilion end, bowls to Bairstow. Bairstow's onto the back foot to this one, and plays it comfortably into the offside. And there is no run. 35 for 1. Root has 2. Bairstow has 14. The man to go, Roy, caught behind off Matt Henry for 17.
So how are New Zealand going to force this? Because it is New Zealand's game to force, isn't it? England don't necessarily have to do anything special. New Zealand are the ones who have to bring something different to the game. What are they going to do?
Good question. Driven by Bairstow on the up, closing the face, but Bolt manages to stop it, stooping to his left in his follow through. And there is no run. Do we get Mitchell Santner on early? Have a little look at him.
Still say Lockie, I'd say, so with the extra bounce he brings in, it could be one that could pick up a quick breakthrough after the
Maybe Lockie one end and Santner the other?
Well, I certainly think that if they can get through one of these and they get Morgan in, I think they need to bring Lockie on to bowl him a few bounces, because he's been a bit remiss against the short bowling. Now this is a short arm jab played well by Bairstow, away through square leg, down the hill for 4 runs.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I think the problem for New Zealand is, while they're bowling well, when there is a slightly loose ball, England are taking toll of it, aren't they? So they're keeping the board moving and they're not giving them a chance to get on top, whereas New Zealand seemed to decide that it was a difficult pitch to score on. This one again flies a little bit as Bairstow leaves it outside the off stump. That's the end of Bolt's 5th over. He's been unsuccessful so far, none for 26. England are 39 for 1.
Good carry there as well.
Yeah, certainly is. Bit of life on that pitch. Jeff Perkins, so there's a new jingle for 4-4, hence the reason no one will expect one to exist. And the YouTube link, so one maybe we can have a look at a bit later. Anna Forsyth, Jason, all your shouting and clapping in the field has come to nothing.
It came to 17.
17 runs. That's not bad. 17 runs in the World Cup final.
A little bit harsh.
Marty Q, every ball that's bowled, we are one ball nearer to a batting collapse. I know we're a great team, but 50 years of hurt.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, we know that as well as anyone. Henry starts a new over, bowls to Root. Root tries to flick this up to mid-on, looking for the single, won't get it.
I saw our friend, our mole in the BBC setup, Dan Norcross, was on some show the other day, and he was. There were a couple of Australians on the panel saying, England are going to sort of walk this, are going to take it in their stride, and Norcross just went, "This is the mind games. Even though you're not in the final, these are the mind games
playing against us." Onto the back foot goes Root, trying to force, but Santner comes around at extra cover fields. There's no run.
To which the Australians just went, "That's old England thinking that. You stop thinking that negative way."
The thing is, as consumers of England's cricket over the last 30-40 years, we are not part of New England. We are seeped in old England. What can we do about it? It's going to take many years of this sort of cricket for us to be weaned off. That's a lovely ball by Henry. Beats Root as he comes forward. So good from Matt Henry.
I've exhausted the Jaffa jingle, but there was another one.
Yeah, definitely. Just going back to the Roy dismissal, a couple of comments about Alim Dar being on the field. So apparently, according to Seagrave Sub, umpire Mr. Dar was asking Roy to wait before the boundary rope while they checked for the no ball. Jason Roy wasn't interested in it, and Devanshi was saying that he asked us for confirmation that the catch was clean. He was happy to wait. So it was just a few confirmations going on with the umpire.
All right, thanks for that. Down the leg side, tickled by Root, or maybe it just came off a bit of pad, but Latham did well away to his left there to prevent it going away for any runs. So 4 more dot balls at the beginning of the 5th over from Henry. He's bowled really well, and I'd say he deserves better figures than 1 for 13.
2 for 13? Would that
Yeah,
help?
2 for 13.
Yeah, next ball. That would certainly be better.
Yeah, 2 for 91.
Yeah. Strange the way they calibrate good bowling figures, isn't it, like that?
Henry in again. Bowls to Root. Root's onto the back foot. That's a testing delivery. And pushes straight back to the bowler. There is no run. Oh, we are having a change at the end of this over. That's why Andy Ward has walked into the room. Who's he brought with him? He's bringing with him. He's brought Tony Bishop with him. Anyone else but Tony Bishop? Or is that it? Anyone else but Tony. Anyone but Tony. Final ball of the power play. Henry bowls to Root. Root comes forward, drives, comes off a thick handside edge to mid wicket, and there is no run. After 10 overs, England chasing 241 to 242 to win are 39 for 1.
Alternative cricket commentary, bringing you laughs, bringing you jingles, bringing you joy. We are gorillas. We need your Patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket.
Yep, it's been a long old World Cup, and if you've enjoyed it and you're not a Patreon subscriber, please think about chipping in.
Well, is it just me, or is this absolutely as tense as can be?
I think it is.
39 for 1. We have a change of bowling. It on Bastille Day. It is Monsieur Le Grand Homme.
Oh, is that why people were talking French early on?
Oh, could be. Could be.
I turned to look, but I was gone. I cannot see my own reflection now. My body's gone, my face is gone.
Just a gentle away swing, and Bairstow is able to leave it through to the gloves of Latham. The voice to my right was Andy Ward, who is manning the jingles.
I am.
And to my left, long tall Steve, who is in charge of all things tweet.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And back again, in comes de Grand Homme. Uppishly, Bairstow didn't get to the pitch of that, perhaps just a little bit slower as he was looking for the drive, and well, he kind of really just let it hit the bat really, but the bat was stretched out away from the body.
Interesting move from New Zealand.
And
they want
up
to
it
take
went.
the pace right off with de Grand Homme as soon as the power play was over.
They did, and they're looking to frustrate these two. It's a terrific spell by Bolt. That one again is wide of Bairstow's off stump, and he quite literally turns his back on it and walks away, collecting his thoughts, conscious of destiny, but destiny has got many barriers on its way before it can be realised, I think.
A little word from
that metaphor a bit more.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I think as far as it can go, in comes to Grondon onto the back foot. Goes Bairstow, it's away to point, and there is no run.
A little word from Josh Robinson. What a good job Roy didn't get suspended for the final. No chance of Vince getting a 20 ball 17.
And nicking off. Yeah, so there you go. You had a fairly Vince-like.
It was a Vince-like innings, yes.
And actually, to be fair, Roy was lucky to get to his 17 because
he was to get to one. Yes.
He was hook, line, and sinkered off the very first ball of the innings, wasn't he? As this one is more onto the legs of Bairstow. He pushes it into the onside, but there's a man there and there's no run.
Some slightly bad news. We've lost Pirate Badshaw. He's off to listen to Ireland versus Zimbabwe T20 commentary.
Hipsters.
Hopefully Sterlo will.
It's only the World Cup final.
Slam a few. He's been in absolutely incredible form, has Paul Sterling against Zimbabwe. De Grandon, and he'll be distraught with that.
But similar, it was
get his head around it and
dissimilar to the one Bairstow played up to mid off. He was just too early.
It was. He's too early on the shot. They're taking the pace off the ball. They're bowling very intelligently. They're getting a little bit of help, I think, from the Lord's wicket, and I think New Zealand are in an attack well suited for this wicket and these conditions.
Bobby Bobbers, I think, is right. It's going to be a late night in Melbourne.
There will be. They're watching the cricket. Yes, for here. As it's in the